Good morning, good evening, across the nations and around the world, wherever you are. This is Obsessive Audio. I'm Eric, and we're going to do something a little bit different tonight on the live stream. We said we'd do something different, and here we go. I have my good friend
different.
Al Piggins is with us for the evening. Al,
hello, world.
How are you, Al?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Good, man. I'm all right. I probably shouldn't have taken all those pills, so this is going to make for interesting evening, let's say.
Oh well.
So you were playing with the Rickenbacker there a bit, right? While we were getting set up.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
That
While
was
we were doing our multiple
76 one.
76
one.
So when did you get that one?
Oh, I got it in the summer. I just and it needed a lot of work. Rickenbackers have the two truss rods on them.
Did you get a dual truss rod?
Yeah, they've got a dual truss rod. So I probably 20 years ago, somebody decided they're going to do a home setup, and they snapped one of them.
Oh, wonderful.
It's been replaced.
Right.
But it took part of it took a bit of the neck with it. It was a lot of work on that guitar. But it's great now for if you like Rickenbackers. But Rickenbackers, yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping to learn a bit more. I haven't really had, it's weird, but that's one guitar that I haven't had a lot of experience with. I played Rickenbacker bass, like a buddy's bass, a couple times, but that's about it. And you're saying that they don't have a lot of sustain, which I found really weird because to me, I always associated with the Byrds and the Beatles and that kind of jangly sound, but
they're very strange guitars. Like, they don't feel like anything else, right? Like, even, how people go on about, the difference between Fender and Gibson is nothing compared to the difference between Fender or Gibson and a Rickenbacker. They're really strange. The necks feel kind of weird. They've got that blend knob on them. Like, I don't know if you can see it. It's got like that. There's this knob here blends the pickups. That's kind of it. That's an interest. So it just works in the middle position. It's cool, but it's kind of like it's over-engineered.
Right, because you could just do the blend like on a Les Paul or something. You've got the blend just with the two volume knobs. Yeah. But that's interesting. Let's get you back here. There we go. So, anyways, I don't know if I did the whole introduction with Al, but he had a band in the 90s called the Morganfields, and then did a solo project, made a whole bunch of albums. He's got his latest project, which is called The Lobstermen, and I'm sure we'll be getting into that. I toured around with Al with his solo bands. We went to China twice. Is that right?
Twice. Yep. 2007 and 2011.
Nice.
Right before the Beijing Olympics, so we got to see the clearings of neighborhoods to pull up Olympic structures.
That's right. Where they just say, you know what, we're going to build this ice rink here or the swimming pool, and you guys are moving. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? I know you're moving. Eminent domain.
Yeah. So we understand that your family's been living in this house for 500 or 300 years, but
that's where they roll. That's how they roll there. I mean,
that's a proper dictatorship.
Yes. As
we were talking,
boys and girls, that's a dictatorship. Today. Well,
that's a dictatorship.
I remember we would be there. I mean, we were so coddled on both of these trips, right? We were we had our own personal guides and a bus, and they would drive us around and take us. They'd choose the restaurants and the places where we'd go and who we would interact with and that sort of thing. But I remember sitting down with those guys one night. I don't even know what I was talking about, but I mentioned something, and everybody just went silent.
Oh, I remember that. Was that the one in that kind of weird villa thing up in the mountains above Suzhou?
Yeah.
Where you ate the head off of a pigeon.
Yeah, and it's like that's illegal in China. We don't talk about that here. And in the mountain that restaurant we were eating at, of course, we were dining with the owner, who was the guy who put on this tour, but he's also like a top official in the government there, and that's the thing about China, right? The business people also are the government people. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's state-run capitalism basically. It's why I kind of find it kind of pretty funny when people talk about they're communists. They're not, they no one's free. Well, they're not really communists. They're actually mega capitalists. The rich are getting incredibly rich. They're that guy that you're talking about. I think he owned a couple of the factories that were building like Apple stuff.
Oh wow! Like that kind of wealth, like
that kind of wealth. Yeah. I remember his mistress was playing footsies with me under the table.
Oh, that's nice. Don't let him hear. Don't let him hear that. No, I think.
Yeah, no, I wasn't drinking. I wasn't drinking that night because I remember I had like my first and last asthma attack in my entire life the day before. And when we were in Shanghai, I couldn't breathe, and that's never happened to me before.
No, because of the stunning air quality there, which was oh my god, it was yellow.
I can't breathe, bro. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. You couldn't see 20, 30 yards down the street.
There's this one. Remember when we went inland and there was this one town inland, like a couple 100 miles? And it was like just yellow cloud. The sun looked orange. You couldn't.
Chengdu, I think it was.
Yeah.
And the one with the. Was that the one with the stage that was in that kind of like a courtyard of an old industrial area?
Yeah, it was like outside and stuff, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that one where they put us up in that hotel, that crazy fucking hotel. Everything was painted gold.
Oh my god! And was that the same place as? No, there was another place where they put us in a hotel, and it was like a ghost town. You know, these mythical towns where they build the whole city, and it's basically an investment vehicle. It's a place to dump money without paying tax. So no one lives in these cities. You have the entire infrastructure there, all these buildings, but they're empty. And this one of the hotels we were at was like that, right? Remember that?
Oh yeah, you wouldn't see a soul except for people going to and from the factories. Like I think you'd see rush hour, I guess, and that would last an hour of people going to and from their shifts, and then it would be completely dead again. But there's nothing you couldn't go. There was nothing to do around there. You couldn't go out for a coffee or a meal. You'd have to. Everything was in the hotel.
Yeah, it was like just totally kind of sequestered from the rest. And there was construction on one side, I remember, and there's nothing else there. Like nothing. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah. I think that was Chengdu. Yeah.
Wow.
Continue. Sorry.
No, I just was going to repeat what you said because like it's clearly not. They're clearly not a communist state anymore. The days of Mao. Neither is Russia, for that matter, right? They're not. These are not communist nations. They're like kleptocracies. They're dictatorships.
Yeah, they are dictatorships.
Putin may be the richest man in the world, and the reason I say that is because he gets a cut out of every major business in Russia. I don't know what the percentage is, but they basically all report to him, and there's no way to prove exactly how much money, but he probably is the richest dude in the world.
I think he also owns that convoy.
Oh, the convoy. We're going to go there already, are we?
I don't know, man. Let's just think provocative. Provocative.
No, but that's good because we were going to talk a little bit of gear, but I want to talk some convoy too because then that's obviously going to tie into the project. But the other thing that maybe what we should do is I wanted to talk pedals a little bit.
Let's do that. Yeah.
You turned me on to some of these pedals, and I've been collecting them since. Like in my early guitar days, I had some Boss pedals, and like I had a heavy metal pedal I really liked. Probably had one of the early overdrives. Ended up trading them, and I wanted to go boutique, and it's like, oh, this isn't good enough. This one's got more. We got into some bands. Oh, this is my favorite. I think I ended up settling on a Rat, but now I'm just discovering the love of Boss pedals again. And I've got the first, basically not the first three, because before the compact pedals, Boss had like the big ones that plug into the wall.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then they came out with the OD1, which I don't have. That's the very first pedal, which was yellow. But then it was I believe the Super Overdrive 2. No, it was OD1. Then it was DS1 in 78.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Then the second version of the Overdrive. This is an original 80s. You turned me on to this yellow one.
Yeah, mine's a little more beat up.
After that, Holy,
yeah.
That's probably an original, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's I don't know if it's an original. I got it like about probably 15 years ago, maybe.
It might be.
More. Yeah, about 15 years ago, secondhand at Capsule Music. When
so it probably says on the back. I don't know if the label's still
it would. Well, it would, but it's got Velcro on the back.
Oh, I see. Because this this one's a made in Japan, which I ended up paying. I ended up paying for that privilege.
Is that the Wazacraft one?
No, this is an 80s SD1 Super Overdrive 1, which, by the way, if you're into heavy metal, this is actually the pedal that Gary Holt uses for the Exodus stuff. This is what Zakk Wylde uses for his like squealing harmonics. This is also rumored, although I always believed it was a Rat pedal, but it's now being stated that this is the one that's on Kill 'Em All by Metallica. So this is a great pedal for heavy metal. Which brings us to the third. After the two overdrives and the orange pedal, this was the next one that Boss released, which was the heavy metal pedal.
I've got the Wazacraft version of that. As you can see, all the knobs are where they should be.
All the way up. I found the other trick too is like the distortion doesn't actually have to be all the way up. You can make it a lot quieter by not going. It's the EQ I find is the magic for that pedal, right? It depends. If you got a clean amp.
I was fucking with this one the other day. I've got this hand-wired Vox AC4, and I have it. That's exactly the settings I have for that, and the crazy oscillation that was coming off of that. It was just doing fucking crazy stuff, and I thought. That's one of the best things I've ever heard. Like it just put me in such a good mood. You know, how much
the chainsaw sound, man.
How much more evil can you get?
You can't. It is the sickest. Yeah. It's the sickest tone. Now the Wazacraft was supposedly an improvement because it is quieter. It's got a hell of a lot less noise than the original, and I can attest that the original does have a ton of. When you stop playing, it goes. So that's why turn the distortion down for that one, but and then there is also I haven't mentioned this one, which is the Angry Swede, which I got around the same time you ordered that Waza.
Yeah.
The big plan right after the pandemic, we're going to start a grindcore band, right?
Oh, we have to.
We need these. Angry Swede's a cool one because it's small. No batteries don't fit in. You have to plug it into like a one spot or something like that. But it's got a little blend knob on there where you can blend the unaffected signal in. So it gets pretty good for bass and stuff. And it's really quiet. So I assume like the Waza pedal, they reduced the noise floor a lot.
They did, but I'm just leaving it in classic mode. and then kind of using a noise gate afterward.
Yeah, but classic mode's supposed to be quieter too.
Is it?
The original. Well, the original's fucking noisy, dude. The original's noisy.
Is it? You had just talked about the. This was the other. I was using this for ages as well. Do you have your Rat pedal out?
I don't have it here with me, but but it's the same one as yours, I think.
Yeah.
Except mine's all rusted. It doesn't say Rat
spilt on it.
Yeah. I bought it like that. It was like that kind of. It was like that when I got here.
Here's another one that I think I told you about. This was like one of the ones that I used in the '80s, and then I got rid of it and I found it again. Not the exact same one, but the Tokai Metal Driver.
Wow.
That's a great pedal too. It's a lot different than the heavy metal pedal. It's more like a crazy overdrive, but it's pretty. That's a sweet pedal too. It's a different sound altogether, right?
Now, when they originally came up with that pedal, was that supposed to be a copy of the heavy metal? Was that their idea?
Yeah. I mean, I was all of the first pedals I bought, like when I first started to play gigs in early to mid 90s. Like I have one of them here too. Another one. The core. Everyone had to have a chorus pedal in the 80s, so I have a Tokai chorus pedal.
I have that one too. The same one.
Yeah, they like, for me it was like they were half the price of Boss stuff at the time, and they're built. They're like solid, really solid pieces of work. So. I ended up just getting the metal driver because the guy in my band got the heavy metal pedal, and I just got this. So, and I think I ran a compressor in front of it or something.
Because it's not enough gain the way it is.
Wasn't enough noise.
Just a little more hum, please. Yeah, there we go. Just right in between. When I stop playing, I want it to feed back, okay?
But not nice feedback. My friend Steve Clarkson. You know Steve Clarkson?
I know the name.
Yeah, he was a sound guy. He mailed me this. I haven't had a chance to really get into it. A Shaler fuzz pedal.
Oh, wow.
He got it at a garage sale for like $5 in the 90s, and because he knows I like fucking with fuzz pedals a lot, he just mailed it to me because he said, "Oh, you'll probably use it," and I won't. So that's a nice way of doing things. I like to do things like that too, right? Like,
Well, how are you finding it? What's it like?
I haven't used it yet because I've been obsessed with the heavy metal pedal lately. In the last couple months, it's like it's just so heavy. It's so evil. You know, I can't.
It has like a throat, like a. It just does. You just play a power chord and it goes.
Yeah, it isn't the most. It's not the most subtle sound you're ever going to hear. Yeah.
No. Although David Gilmour apparently used that on the later Pink Floyd records, like Momentary Lapse, the Vision Val era, and he toured with it. And so he was getting more. He wasn't cranking it. He was just apparently some of the solos on those records and those concerts. He's using that in the rig.
I believe it. I mean, but David Gilmour could get a great tone out of anything. He could get a great tone out of a PV Bandit. So, he could. It'd still sound like him. If I tried playing one, I'd sound like garbage. But
we can't always sound good, or we try. But
although I kind of like that, though. At the same time, I don't mind having for some stuff having a really horrible, like, boxy, mid-rangey, fucking solid state sound at times is kind of fun.
That's what Steve Hackett said once, that he had. He's got a sound always on his pedal board. He just calls it the squonk sound. So when he wants that thing where it's just like a lot of mids and like kind of a little abrasive and not quite right.
Yeah. Sort of, you can feel it popping your fillings out.
Yeah, it's like a bit out of phase. It's like it's not a beautiful tone by any stretch of the. It's designed to get attention, right?
Yeah. It cuts. That's what it does. It cuts.
It cuts.
Right, a hole right through the middle of your skull.
Trephination from pedals.
Yeah.
Release the evil spirits.
Oh, and that's when we come back
those
to the heavy metal pedal.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm happy with the Angry Swede, because that original was just I got such a steal. I got that for $60. They didn't really know what they had, and now they're going for like hundreds. And I'm like, I don't want to lose that or like spill beer on it. So going for the boutique pedal was actually more than I'm used to, more than I like paying for a pedal. But it's still it'll save money in the long run and mitigate the risk of that original dying or whatever.
There's also that period that, I mean, it doesn't happen anymore, but around 20 years ago, you could get like around 20 years ago, you could still get stuff that wasn't musically correct, so to speak. It wasn't like the hip piece of gear. Like I've got, they're in another box. I've got a couple of MXR compressors the Dynacomps. Do you remember those?
Yeah. I played with one once, and I didn't quite understand it, but it seemed like it was doing something.
That's what I used for the whole Morganfields, with just my Telecaster, a WAP, a Crybaby, and the Dynacomp into a Marshall. And I used the Dynacomp as sort of the boost pedal. But I got those in the early 90s for like, $20, $30. Nobody wanted them. So you could still get that. Like even my Rat, I got it for $60 a capsule, right? And then I got another one. I've got two of them. I got another one about a year later for like $80, and they're great pedals. Like, it's not. Again, I mean, it's sort of it's a bit different than. It isn't subtle stuff.
No. Well, I still contend that the Rat pedal is probably one of the greatest distortion pedals of all time.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, you get. Sorry. You go ahead.
I like the Rat. Well, I mean, the Rat is my favorite distortion pedal, and it's the difference from using it with like single coils and then going from that to like humbuckers. Mm-hmm. The single coils just sound crazy with the Rat on, and I like that craziness where it's always about to go out of control, and then with humbuckers they're so smooth.
Mm-hmm. I guess you're specifically thinking about the P90, because I know you love the P90s and you tend to use those a lot.
Yeah, I was just sort of thinking about it with this old Telly of mine. This is the one I used in the Morganfields. And that sounds, it's just like, I think that's a pickup wizard, like broadcaster pickup, and that with the Rat sounds pretty crazy too. Like just it just starts to do really weird things that I'm a big fan of the extra sort of non-intended sounds that come out.
Yeah, I know, and it does, and live, and I've noticed this time and time again when you're playing live, it does have that out of control. You don't know what it's going to do. Well, Jimi Hendrix had this too with his tone. Right? I'm thinking, like, he could do that. The other thing too is that when you told, I didn't realize for years, and then you told me that a lot of times you're just rolling the tone all the way down on the guitar as well, like just taking off the treble.
A lot of it, like, I use the treble bleed on all of my volume knobs so that I can still. I use the volume knob to get kind of clean tones, and like I have one tone set up on the amp, and then the volume pot, when it's turned down, it cleans up nicely.
So when you say treble bleed, like what exactly is that?
It's a capacitor that goes in just as it is soldered to the volume pot, so that it feeds the treble back into it. So like when you turn down on a sort of standard guitar, it gets a bit muddy.
Right. Always.
You don't get that. You maintain all the clarity, right?
Oh, nice.
So that. So I have that on all of my guitars, but then on the Telecaster, because there's so much high end, I generally have the tone like 3/4 off, and maybe turn it up a bit for a lead or some fucked up feedback thing. Or to annoy the sound man. Sorry.
No, it's always great when you do that though. The dynamics, and more often than not, you're in a 3-piece or something, so it just screams, and it's like, that's the intensity, and you just get it with one note, even because like you're saying, it's doing all this random shit. You're just holding a note. It's not just going bing. It's like going.
Yeah, that's. And the other, there's an effect that I actually got a couple of months ago when I was going through another one of my many Hendrix phases. I don't know if you've ever taken a bunch of gummies and laid back and listened to Bene Gypsies, but I've done that a bunch of times. And it's got that Univibe thing on it, right?
Yeah.
So I went out and got one of those full-tone Univibes, and you can get all of those crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, kind of like a cross between a chorus pedal and a Leslie or something. It's just, I love it. I love that kind of stuff.
I remember getting really baked pretty much every weekend with a buddy of mine, and it was usually Are You Experienced? Sometimes it would be the other albums, and it's like a $5 of oil, like probably really bad stuff, but we just get so cooked and just like put Jimi Hendrix on repeat.
Did you guys do Hot Knives?
No, not well, we did, but not during that period.
That's so funny that phase of, like, I think somebody pointed it out to me that when you're in our teens, you would inevitably, everybody's house had a couple of knives that had burn marks on them.
That's right. Sometimes just conveniently located right by the stove 24/7.
Yeah. Those are harsh, man. I don't smoke, right? So hot knives
they were always
are crazy.
Harsh. I used to smoke, and they were still fucking harsh. And bottle tokes too. Fuck, gross.
Oh yeah,
holy shit.
PTs.
Not the way to do it.
No,
hot knives are a little less harsh actually than the bottle toke.
And then you spend after a few tokes, you spend like the next 20 minutes going, "Oh, my lungs are fucking killing me."
It's just inhaled a concentration of chemicals that like would have been deemed a hazardous. They would have shut the whole workplace down and sent in the fire department with the masks and shit. Right?
Yeah, you know what we never did? I'm not taking this because I don't know what's in it.
Oh, no, we didn't do that. It was a more trusting time.
Yeah.
Which was actually, maybe a little bit crazy, right? We're like, I got this stuff, man. Well, sometimes it's like, I didn't do that much of it when I was younger, but every time somebody just like takes some of this, what is it? I don't know. Well, let's go. I have no idea what it is.
I have this crazy memory of when I was living in London, Ontario. My girlfriend and I were leaving a bar that we'd been at, and we were going to a house party, and we flagged down a cab. And we get in the cab, and the cab driver lights up and hands me a joint. I'm
nice.
Like, okay, sure. So we're smoking this joint. I was probably 20, like 19 or 20, and we're heading off to this party on the that's a good 10 minutes away from the bar in London, and we're passing it back and forth. He says to me, "Oh, by the way, it's dusted." And I didn't know what he meant. And then when I got out of the car, then my vision went vroom.
Holy shit. So what dusted with what though? Is that like
angel dust? PCP. Yeah, PCP.
Real dude, the James Brown special.
I don't know how the guy drove. Like I couldn't walk.
I guess he built a tolerance or something, but that's like, you remember Trading Places? That's PCP, penicillin, angel dust. You ever seen what this stuff does to kids? You were looking at 3 to 5 mandatory, Lewis. Frank Oz in Trading Places, which is still one of the best movies of all time. It's fucking horribly cringeworthy fucking 80s like Dan Aykroyd's in blackface and shit. Like they really probably should just delete those parts out of the movie. But what it is though, it is a Dickensian tale of the haves and the haves not, and it actually deals for the 80s. I think it was still pretty progressive in the way that it actually dealt with a lot of the social problems in the way that only John Landis could. Right?
It's funny that you bring that up because I was thinking about the 80s. The other day I'd read an article in one of the British papers. I think it might have been one of the shitty ones, like the Telegraph or something. And it was by a writer named Julie Burchill, who was writing about how great the 80s were and how, we could really, people from, like kids nowadays could really learn from the 80s. And she was waxing poetically about how great and free and open to expression we all were in the 80s. But the thing that she misses out on that is it was great for white men
Right.
And that's about it. Like, there was still a lot of really problematic things going on back then.
It was great for white straight men, actually, if you really want to get down to it. When you look at what happened with AIDS.
Right.
And that was in the 80s, and that was fucking just criminal what was done to the AIDS patients.
The 80s was good for white straight men. That was it.
It was about it, Yeah, that's. It's still. I consider it still kind of musically speaking. That's definitely my time period. That's when I kind of came of age, started listening to the radio. It would have been like the late 70s, early 80s, and then all of high school would have been like the 80s. Heavy metal and then thrash metal and all that shit, and punk and hardcore and the good stuff, but also alternative music. REM and U2 and shit like that. I liked it all. I listened to everything, man. Like, it was kind of nuts. Even the hair metal. I have an embarrassing hair metal collection from back then still.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I'm a couple of years older than you, right? Like I'm 55, right? You're
So you got 5 years on me.
I had 5 years on you, so I found the hair metal stuff a bit silly. But I secretly loved AC/DC back then. Like when I was a punk rocker. When I was a punk rocker and later on a mod and stuff, it was all about, the Jam. The Jam were my favorite band. I went through like a ska period and a lot of the British stuff. But I secretly loved AC/DC the whole time.
See, but isn't that, and there you go, even as the straight white man, isn't that interesting that you had to secretly love AC/DC? Right.
Oh yeah, wouldn't have fit with my group of friends. Like
like my one buddy who grew up in Windsor on the podcast there, he was talking about when Queen they put out the album Hot Space, which was it was kind of disco. They had the I Want to Be Free video and that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if you were a rock dude, if you were a Windsor rock guy listening to Detroit rock radio and stuff, this would be like Bob Seger and it's like you couldn't let your friends know that you liked that Queen album. This was like the Disco Sucks era, which is just very thinly veiled homophobia, basically, right? Is what it was. Fundamental religious, reactionary extremism, like
and Ted Nugent.
Oh, and Ted Nugent, yeah. Lots of nudge on the on Detroit radio back in the 70s.
Oh
and
yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
nothing against Bob Seger, by the way, is who I think is fantastic, especially the earlier stuff's fantastic songwriter and singer and stuff. Nugent, I can't really say a lot positively about his tunes. I think there's like the one tune, and I don't even think it's that good.
I mean, Ted Nugent was a guy I never liked.
Because he's an asshole. Like,
not just because he's an asshole. I also thought he was kind of a real hacky guitar player. I didn't really like. It wasn't hacky in a sense of like soulful hacky, like how like the Jam. Paul Weller back in the day was a hacky guitar player, but I love it.
Yeah,
Nugent didn't have that. Nugent was just sort of he I think he thought he was Jimi Hendrix, but he was really just a fucking hack.
Just a hack.
He didn't have good. He didn't have great tone. He didn't. They weren't great songs. He just seemed like an idiot too. To be honest, No,
and when you have punk rock to compare to, like that's real hack music, And even within that Detroit rock, I mean, Kiss had a bit of that kind of sloppy, hacky, don't give a fuck. There's a little bit of like, I wouldn't call it punk, but there was a little bit of that kind of feeling where it's like we're not going for pristine musical quality here, right? We're going for a fucking party, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I think because my family, we lived over in the UK in 1977, 78, and I had older brothers. I ended up getting like the whole punk rock thing was really, that's what we listened to. I remember seeing the Stranglers on British television when I was like 11 and going, fuck, this is something, right? I'd kind of gone from like Beatles and ABBA were the only two bands or Beatles, Beach Boys, and ABBA was what I liked at 10, at 10, 11. I still, the Beatles are still probably my favorite band in history, but when the punk rock thing happened, it was sort of like, first of all, you saw it on the news, oh, punk rockers, and then you heard about it in school, and then when I started to see it on TV, it was like, this is great. And then coming back to Canada from that, and how narrow-minded I found people. Like it was Journey, it was like Ted Nugent, it was Arena Rock,
Boston, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Which is great stuff. I love Rumors. I love the first Boston record. I love a lot of the Journey stuff, but it doesn't have the same. And I wouldn't have excluded punk just because I liked the other stuff back then. But that gets back on this idea there where you couldn't tell your friends.
You couldn't. Like I think a lot of my friends would have been pretty like, oh, you like AC/DC, what's wrong? But whatever. I mean, we all you like that when you're a kid. You say stupid things. You join different cults and clubs and cliques and stuff. And our clique was the punk rock clique.
And that's insane. That's AC/DC. I mean, there's no circumstance in the world which it's not cool to like AC/DC.
Oh, no, they were, especially the Bon era stuff, they were so good. Like, I'm such a big fan of the sound of a band playing in a room.
Yep.
Right. And the first few records is a band playing in a room. Depending on, it may have been a different drummer. It might have been the brother on bass, but it was still a band playing.
And that is just not, that's just not something that's done as much anymore. I mean, it still is done. Like the new Helicopters record, for instance, has that. It's recorded it sounds that way. But a lot of rock just doesn't sound that way anymore. Yeah,
I agree. I think it's difficult to get everybody on side when you're forming a band. I think to go, okay, well, we're all gonna, just this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go in and record a record, and everybody practice and everybody get ready for it, and then find a studio where you can, because I found even coming from a recording engineer perspective, as you've done, and you were there when I've tried to do this, as to help out, I think, with the Quitters at one point, where it just wasn't. You really need a space where you've got sight lines and you can still see and hear each other, and it's not all coming through the cans and stuff.
That was because that studio was split onto two different floors, so you were actually it wasn't even a booth; it was like on a different level. So completely, it was like different. A video screen or something.
Yeah, and you also you're not getting your amp; you're getting your amp through your phones. There's like an obsession with bleed, right?
Yeah.
And bleed isn't the worst thing in the world.
No, and you know what? The better your microphones are, the more bleed. The better that your room is, and the better that your microphones are, that bleed all of a sudden starts to really help instead of becoming this annoying thing, right? Good mics.
Yeah, I agree.
In a nice space like that, the bleed is your friend. Al Schmidt knew that.
Well, George Martin. Yeah, I mean, those first. Please Please Me was written was recorded in an afternoon. Get your tones down in the morning, tune the drums, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I really miss that. And of course the pandemic is, again, it's another further step away from that because people are doing so much virtually, and then albums are being made, but now they're being made in different cities and put together. And I mean, they were before. And back to your point about, trying to find the right band members and get them all in the room and stuff. You also have to think about the amount of session guys that actually were used, like that first Pistols record, session dudes. Some of the Kiss albums, there's session guys all over the place, right?
Yeah. Was it Chris Spedding who played guitar on the first Pistols record? That was a rumor I'd heard for years, that it was Chris Spedding playing guitar all over that stuff.
Another good one is Def Leppard. Def Leppard, right. Where they actually did, it is Steve Clark playing guitar and Phil Collin. They're playing guitar.
Yeah.
But the drums aren't real. The bass isn't real. Not on Pyromania even. Pyromania has sampled drums and sampled bass. So does Hysteria, and I think they gradually started adding the real pieces back in. But their biggest records don't have a real rhythm section. It's incredible.
That was the Mutt Lange thing too, right? Like Mutt Lange was such a pristine guy, which, love him or hate him. I mean, he's not really. Yeah, I'm kind of like this with him, right? Like there's a couple of things I like that he did, but absolutely, I preferred DC before him.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
yeah. I remember you and I talking about how he was using a harmonizer on the snare and stuff. To me,
on Back in Black, just to make it deep or whatever. Yeah.
To me, I wouldn't give a fuck if the snare sounds deep enough, as long as it's got a vibe going on. No. But
and
that's why
other ways.
That's why I'm a failed musician living in a basement.
Okay, the one thing I will say about the Mutt Lange stuff is definitely knows how to make a stereo system sound good. He knows how it,
he does.
You put something on in the car and it just goes like, fuck. It is larger than life because it's not. It doesn't sound like real life. It sounds synthetic. It sounds more like Star Wars, right? Which was the plan. Right, that's what they'll tell you they wanted to make a Star Wars record. They didn't want the sound that they thought that old sound of like the band in a room was boring, and they wanted to do so. They good on them. Right? It's just that's not always the aesthetic that I would tend to go for. Although sometimes I do. Sometimes that's exactly what I want. So it just depends. I think it depends on the material and on the song.
When you did the plastic bag stuff, did you guys take mixes out in a cassette and put them in a car to listen to them ever?
Yeah, that was pretty standard practice back then.
Yeah, that's what we did. The middle Morganfield record, the thrash waltz Morganfield's record. We would guess every time we thought we had a mix. Me, the engineer, and the other guys producing the record went out to the car and listened to it. He goes, "Oh, let's be." The engineer goes, "I want to hear it in my car." So we go to his car. I didn't have a car, so we didn't do it in my car.
Well, car's a good listening environment, and part of the reason why is because you've got the best bass traps ever in there. The bass just like leaves; it just goes through the paneling of the car. It just leaves. Yeah. So you don't get all this. It's not like a real room where you get all these modes and you're gonna get all these bass buildups unless you treat it. It's like the car actually sort of takes care of that. The sound escapes out of the windows and through the panels. And so it's actually can be, if you got a good stereo system, it's a really clear listening experience. Maybe even clearer than the studio that you were working in, depending, right?
Yeah, and the fact, especially at the time, people mainly listened to, with people would have spent 50% of their time listening to music in a car. You know what I mean? As opposed to, like to and from work and all of that sort of stuff, you would have been listening to music, so it was making it sound great for that environment.
Yeah, and I mean I miss those days. I miss I think when I moved to the big city, the need for a car sort of. I mean, I had a car for a few years, and it was really expensive. It was hard to park. I had to get a permit for everything or get tickets all the time. And I just said, I don't need one. So I just stopped, But you can't do that when you go outside of the big city. You go to anywhere really. Just drive half an hour out of the city. You're now in a situation where you probably need a car to get around. Maybe not like Hamilton or something, but like Niagara Falls or like St. Catharines or Oshawa. That shit's like it's all spread out, right? It's the way it was designed.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely not for pedestrians or cyclists.
No, L.A., come on. I mean, L.A., how would you do L.A. without I mean, people do it. Not everybody has a car, but it's like that, the way that city's laid out, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then, so I was thinking about that we should talk about your the new project, the Lobster.
Let's talk about
the Lobster, man. Let's get, I want to get one of those fancy transitions going on here. Come on, let's make this thing worth it. Do you want fly rotate or cube zoom? Let's do cube zoom, shall we? Here we go.
Oh, okay. What are we doing? Oh,
cube zoom.
There we go.
I'm just getting over. Yeah, it's all automated, right? I'm doing all the switching live, so saves a lot of time in editing, that's for sure, and we can stream. Now the songs, I did find those early 2 songs. So you have 4 songs already under the Lobstermen. Why don't you tell us a bit about the project and what inspired you and
why? the project is my coping mechanism for the pandemic, really. I have as you know, you're quite aware of, I have a pretty dark sense of humor.
Yeah.
So the first song ended up being a song called Sending Nan to No Frills, which was a song that I wrote pretty much the first week of the pandemic, when I do all the shopping in my house. And so there's a No Frills about, 800 meters from me. So I went to do my regular shopping. This is like 5-6 days in, and it's packed with little old ladies doing the shopping for the family. And I thought, there's got to be somebody in the household that's a bit, got a bit better immune system.
It is kind of sad, because that's true. The first thing they told us about the pandemic is that it's going to kill old people. They're the ones that are most at risk. They're the ones that are in the most danger. It's just like, okay, you go.
So I was sort of picturing like a 40-year-old guy living at home and sending his nan out to get him chips and shit like that. Oh, I need some time. I just get out. I need some chips. And Nan or Nona, depending on the neighborhood you live in, it's off to No Frills to pick up some supplies while Buddy's sitting in the basement playing
Do you want to
video
hear
games.
Let's hear some of that. Let me see if I can find it. Where did everything go?
Where did everything go?
That's an album title right there.
Where did it all go wrong?
Here we go.
I can't hear it there.
I'll get you. Give me a minute.
Yeah. There we go.
Nice. Nice. I get, like kind of that there's those jangly guitars in there. Look at a little bit of like a Replacements vibe maybe out of it.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I've ripped off Paul Westerberg quite a few times. I think that's probably just the latest example.
Yeah. No, but it's great. It sounded great, and I ended up mastering these, right? And this one I don't think I had to touch a thing on it. I just like make it loud, right? Give it some limiting, and like that maybe tiny bit of stereo spread or something, but I did no repair necessary, right? So because you've got some, and this is something we didn't mention, that you've got some serious mixing chops in the studio. Like you used to work at Chemical Sound, and you've done some records with people, and kind of hung out with the big boys there for a while there, right?
Yeah, that's what I was doing for a living at sort of like about 98 to 93 kind of thing. But I started to play a lot more shows around that time, and it's hard to do both, really, to start touring, to tour a lot, because I was touring a lot at that point, and to keep up that career. Also, I was very slow to pick up the digital recording,
Pro
Tools, and eventually I actually
that was
run
right around that time too, wasn't it?
Yeah, because Chemical was back when I was there was an analog studio. There wasn't any computers there, and and if you didn't have a budget, we had ADATs.
Right. And which were digital tape machines, but you know, I think people know what the ADAT, maybe they do, but it was like digital 8-track machines, and there was a video cassette, Super VHS. So you get 8 tracks, but you could link up multiple machines, so you could buy 3 of these machines and get a 24-track out of it.
Yep, and what I did my first solo album when I was working at Chemical, where I would put guide tracks down. I put a SMPTE stripe on the 24th channel, I think it was.
Oh, right. I remember you had to do that. Track. Yeah, they wouldn't. You needed a sync track.
So I had a sync track, and then I would do guide tracks on the on 2 of the tracks of the ADAT, take it to my house, record the stuff, then take it back, dump it, back and forth. That's how I did the first Ballad-esque was done that way. So that was it was an interesting way to do it. But I didn't pick up on I didn't own a computer at the time because I'm at heart, I'm kind of a Luddite, and I've just had to learn stuff, but whether I wanted to or not. But then after that, my son was born in 2005 and became the absolute priority. So it's really only since the pandemic started that I've really been diving back into the recording side of it, which I really enjoy it, and that's the Lobstermen started as sort of as lyrically coping mechanisms, but also things to focus on while you couldn't do much. It was either that or I was going to eat a lot of chips and drink a lot of beer. I think I spent the first 6 months eating a lot of chips and drinking a lot of beer.
I think a lot of people did. It's just because nobody knew. It's like, well, maybe is the whole planet going to be like dead in 2 months, or like nobody knew. Yeah. For the first month, right? It was scary.
I think there's a lot of Netflix too.
Yeah, well, I did the same. I started all the podcasting and the video channels and stuff, and that sort of helped. But back to ADATs, it's like that's exactly. I think I kind of learned on the ADATs. I mean, there was 8-track tape machines and stuff, but my first 24-track album that I did for a band, that was the same way that you did. Like, we only had enough for 2 ADATs, and we'd rent the third one out for the mix.
Right. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's crazy. Was it the vintage black-faced ones?
I believe they were. This is before the Super ADAT.
I personally owned a Super ADAT. I splurged on it. It was either that or it was going to be a DA-88.
Oh, well, those were nice. I did some projects on those. Those are good.
But then Chemical had the ADATs, and you could actually hook up. The Super ADATs would work in tandem with the regular ADATs, and we had the command center and everything set up for it. But the worst bit with ADATs is if you didn't back up.
Oh, fuck. Even if you did, the tapes could die on you, right?
Well, the tapes could go.
They could just stop working one day.
Oh, you press play and it just fast forwards instead until the end, and then it breaks. Yeah, that happened. That was.
The time to rewind, and if you were fancy, they had that unit called the BRC, which is like a controller unit.
Yeah, we had one of those at Chemical. Yeah,
you could set locate points. You could move stuff around different tracks, and you could. It was a little more useful. We didn't even have. I don't think we had the money for that. I think we just had that little tiny one.
Well, yeah, I think you could probably buy those on Reverb for about $7,000.
Only 5 were made.
Yeah.
No, but that studio that I worked in there with the ADATs did have, though, was a Cubase on an old Atari, like a 1080 or I don't know.
Right.
1080 ST, eMagic Uniter card to do all the MIDI, and it would control like all the synthesizers and the samplers and the sound modules. So it was like Cubase, but it was before Cubase. Cubase couldn't do audio tracks back then. It started off as a MIDI only program, right? So it was just MIDI. It was just MIDI messages, right? And you would put the sync on the ADATs, and it would sync your whole performance for the mix, right?
Oh my god, that's crazy! Like you were a lot more into the computer recording. You were way back into the computers back in the day.
Back into it. I was. I was and I wasn't, right? Because I was in the sense that, I had a lot of MIDI experience. I had the keyboards and I knew about digital recording. But what I didn't have was like $50,000 for a DigiDesign Pro Tools system, which is what they were asking for back then. I'm talking like 99, 2000. It was like enormous amounts of money. And I had to wait until, Cubase had started to have audio tracks in it, and I was like, all right, this is like maybe 2000 or something, and you could buy an interface for like $1,600, $2,000, and like that's the price point I can do.
Yeah, well, you can pick up if you're still looking for one of those boards from back then. You can find them. They can go with your fully vintage ADAT machines and get a DigiDesign formerly $50,000 board for $800.
Oh yeah. It's amazing, right?
Needs work.
The digital stuff I find always digital just tends towards zero. It doesn't appreciate if you've got almost any kind of especially stuff like the Pro Tools stuff. That stuff really just goes.
I've got a Digio 2 rack mount out in the other room in my house that I think I was trying to sell that about 3 years ago for. I think I was negotiating with a guy for $50, and it was definitely something like $1,800 when I bought it. Because that was when you had LE. It was LE2 or something. DigiDesign LE2.
Right.
So you're only given 24 tracks, and then you could have 8 or 9 extra tracks that you don't use. Right.
Right.
So you can put all your vocal mix, like your vocal comps, over on the other tracks and stuff. You should. When I did Awaken the Snakes, you sang on Awaken the Snakes.
Right. I remember that
on Inheritance Burns. I was using the Fostex D24 something or other. That was like a hard drive recorder, and in order to mix it, I've got that old Yamaha 2408 board, but I ended up renting all of these compressors and stuff, and my basement was just packed with shit.
Oh, like to do the mix on the analog on that board.
Yeah, and at the time I had ear surgery when I was around 23. Because I lost all my hearing, and they reconstructed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'll show you the scars.
I know you were deaf on. I know you were deaf on one side. I know that, but I didn't. I just thought it was from the drums or something.
Well, but the funny bit with it was I had hearing for a few years in my left ear. I had hearing from time I was 23 to about 34. I had hearing. And then I was mixing Awaken the Snakes, and the bones that were, I had bones from like a bone donor, in behind my eardrum.
Wow.
Like the Incus Stapes Matius, I think they are. But they started to decay. So, and I didn't realize it. So the mixing was like, one day I'd be going down there, go, what the fuck is going on? I couldn't figure it out, right? So I even rented out like the the subwoofer thingy that comes with, you could get with NS10s back then. I tried one of those. I tried all this stuff, but I just couldn't figure. I was going deaf in my left ear. Wow. I am deaf now, but I didn't realize it. And when I wanted to master it, it was like Joe Carvello mastered it, and he did listen to it once, and he goes, "Bud, what's up?"
Oh no! Well, based on this Lobster Man stuff, you've obviously figured out a way around that stuff, because the stuff sounds great. It doesn't have to be fixed. I had another question about given that you stayed in analog for so long, even mixing some of your own records on analog.
Yeah.
Now that you're doing stuff in the digital, in the DAW, like, how are you finding it sonically? Are you finding it much of an adjustment? Are you having to change what you do, or like, was it a struggle at all? Was it easy?
There's a really big gap from after doing stuff at Chemical with like 2-inch tape,
right,
to going to the weird part was using, more than anything, was Awaken the Snakes, because that Fostex machine was not a very good sounding machine. It was very harsh. That record, even to this day, if I throw it on to try to learn a song that I forgot how to play, I just go, holy shit, it's very digital sounding. But I found that like, the better the technology has gotten, the better it sounds. And I literally cannot get over how powerful these, like, I use Logic 10, and I can't get over how much you can do, how much control you have, how much is at your fingertips. I mean, we're talking like that song Harley Davidson Yoga Man. I mean, I was just fucking about. I didn't even know I had pan flutes on in my library from Logic 10, but I do. And so there's just so much you can do. There's like 20, 30 drum kits in there. Yeah, it's crazy. It's sonically, yeah. It's been a long time since I recorded on analog tape.
Let's try the fly rotate here. Check this out.
Okay, let's just
Harley Davidson Yoga Man.
Here we go.
So, what was the inspiration behind this beauty here?
Okay, this is the latest Lobsterman song. I put it out last week. I still haven't made enough money off of it to buy a curry dinner, which was what I was hoping.
Right.
An expensive curry dinner. But it was written last summer when I was cycling. I used to do these 40 to 60 kilometer bike rides every day. And on the way home, I rode by this guy that was walking down, I think he was walking down Ossington, and he was wearing a Harley Davidson t-shirt. He had a man bun and a beard, and he was carrying a yoga mat. He was covered in tats. And before I could even think about it, my brain just said, Harley Davidson Yoga Man. And because I'm a dick and I like taking the piss out of people, I wrote a whole story about Harley Davidson Yoga Man. And I guess there's that, and then there's a whole lot of Jordan Peterson samples and motorcycle samples in there, and a bit of Joe Rogan in there too.
Well, of course.
I mean, if there's one thing I again, when I talk about this stuff being coping mechanisms, if something is really annoying me, I either get really wound up, or I have to turn it into a complete fucking joke. Yeah. And so I do that a lot. And this
just take the piss.
Take the piss. I'm taking the piss.
Just dump all over the thing and just go.
Yoga Man.
We're gonna hear some of this. So we're gonna be listening in advance for some of these awesome Jordan Peterson samples. He actually made his voice quite musical. He is. I think he does have a mellifluous tone when he speaks like that.
Oh, Joe, you want to see, Joe? He sounds like Aunt Donna from Chatham or something.
All right, here we go. Let's check it out. Probably helps if we start from the beginning of the tune, eh? How about that? Here we go.
Hey, Eric, I'm gonna get some water.
Yeah. Let's let this play out a bit.
Okay.
It's strange on the outside.
Definitely. It's strange to those men, too.
It's strange to those men, too.
Those men, too. Strange to those men, too.
That's perfect, dude. I don't know what's up with that guy. It's just he gets weirder and like fucking. I think it's like maybe losing his mind or something.
Yeah, you know what? I think we talked about this a couple of days ago. I went down a rabbit hole with this stuff, right? For like finding like samples to use. Although if anyone says if Jordan Peterson's lawyers ever contact me, none of this ever happened.
Oh, yeah.
But I went down a real rabbit hole, like checking things out, and I literally there's a lot of stuff I can't put there. You know how we were talking earlier about having to we can't put certain things on here because they'll get banned or whatever. There's stuff that he says regularly that is buddy, that is crazy. But
stuff that should actually be against the terms of service, probably.
Oh yeah, he goes on about, there's a whole bit that is sort of buried in the mix there, and this is nicer stuff of his, because there's some stuff I couldn't. He talks about rape a lot, and his take on it is, I don't even want to get it. He's insane. He's talking about it being, if you have weaker genetic material, or if you have undesirable genes, that's why one that's why one rapes, as opposed to what anyone. It's not about genes. It's about power. It's about being a fucking pig. It's completely. I think I said this to you before. Like, when I first heard of him, he was on TVO, TV Ontario, for people that are around the world. And he was on a show called The Agenda. He would be on as a guest every
Steve
few
Paikin.
months. Yeah, Steve Paikin. And he would be a pretty compelling guest 10, 15 years ago. He would occasionally have something to say. He'd be on a show. He'd be keeping in his lane, which is that of a clinical psychologist.
Right.
And then he picks a fight with the trans community. Which was where he kind of shot to infamy or fame, depending on.
Yeah, that's right. Because he got in trouble with the school. Because he was like, I don't want to have to use this pronoun or that pronoun, and
but he got in so much trouble. He got into so much trouble that he wanted to be fired, and they wouldn't fire him, so he had to resign.
Wow. Well, but see, he shot to fame after that. He literally probably increased his income tenfold after that, I bet.
Well, I think the whole plan, between you and me, I think the whole plan, why I think this, first of all, I'll preface it, when I was signed to a major record deal, you would sit around, and one of the things that would be discussed is, we need a story. We need a hook. We need a story for this album. Like, what's the story? Like,
always.
Did you fight cocaine addiction? Were you an alcoholic? Is this one that you wrote after leaving your wife or whatever? It's like, we need a story.
Were you thrown in jail for robbing a bank? Do you beat your dog?
Did you go on a freedom convoy?
Did you go? You were in that convoy, didn't you? I know. I saw you gave him. You didn't go, but you gave him $50. I saw your name on the list.
Mr. Trudeau, you wrecked my snow fort. But
they shouldn't have shut down my Facebook.
They shut down my Facebook. They're making me brush my teeth and floss, Mr. Trudeau.
Okay, so speaking of the convoy, right? One thing, I mean, it's obvious that you can totally take the piss, and a lot of things we saw are very easy to laugh at. But I still maintain that, like, what possesses someone to drive across the country, which, as you know, it takes like fucking days, like almost a week, like a couple days, and then they stay there for another 3 weeks in the fucking cold, in in like the heat, or not the heat dome, just like the diesel dome of fumes and honking horns. Like the first 10 days, they were honking horns 24 hours, right? That must have been like, what possesses someone to do that? Like, they were really fucking mad, right? They're feeling like they're not being heard. And I think, even though you may not agree with the reasoning behind it, you have to consider that the emotion and the drive behind this is real, at least as far as they're concerned, right?
It's real in their own heads. I mean, in my opinion, it's just white privilege. It's white entitlement. I mean, I don't think... both you and I have been to a dictatorship too. When we were in China. Yeah, and I've been to Russia as well, right? And
that's right. Yeah,
they're not places like to sit there and compare, like Trudeau especially. And I didn't vote for Trudeau, right? But to compare a minority liberal government that got elected in September to a dictatorship is absolutely delusional. But I don't think even that. I think it's just right wing. Like it's just divisive destabilization politics. That's all I think it is. I think that they exploited the anger, confusion, frustration of a lot of people who are sick of the pandemic, as we all are. But here's this, like what Trump does in the States and what the convoy is doing is going, here we've got a scapegoat for you. We've got the reasons that you're so unhappy, as opposed to the fact that we're actually in a pandemic that we don't really have control over, right?
Right, so there is no, the virus is going to do what it's going to do. How we respond to it may or may not affect the course to a great degree, but it's totally going to take its natural course. And most pandemics do last a couple of years, sometimes longer. So,
and I think what again, you and I talked about this the other day on the phone, was there's a lot of money behind this.
Oh my God.
So, that it's, I mean, from what I've been seeing, it's the Christian right, which is, and probably Russian money, I think.
Oh, definitely. I hear
destabilization money.
You got it, man. You hit the nail on the head, because I hear from at first it sounds like a conspiracy or theory or something. It sounds like you're being all conspiratorial, but I keep hearing from expert after expert, disinformation experts, national security experts, whether they're in the cyber field, whether they're in intelligence agencies, and this is the name of the game. This is what Russia's been doing. This is actually how Vladimir Putin took power like 30 years ago. He inflamed the religious Orthodox right in the country, convinced everybody that it was your neighbor out to get you instead of him. And that's I think something we really got to point out here, because I think everybody's hurting. And so, I mean, I empathize with people when, you lost your job, you're not making any money, you're not getting ahead in the world, you're not achieving, you grew up being told that you could get this and that and the other thing, and that didn't happen. So whose fault is it, right? But instead of blaming, companies that are doing this to people, right? Corporations, fucking Walmart that's doing this to people by not paying them, by building big shops and shutting down entire local economies and towns. So instead of pointing the anger there, they don't want that. You have to blame someone else, deflect that blame away. And coming back to Russia, this is this is how Putin takes power in Russia, but this is also what he's been doing to the satellite states around, like the former Soviet states, like in Ukraine. This is what he was doing before they invaded in 2014. trying to find the Russian sympathizers within that state and get them fucking riled up, get them ready to fight everyone else. So what it does is it destabilizes everything from the inside out. Yeah, similar tactics were used in Brexit. I mean, this is not just a Canada thing. This is all over the world. So it's the U.S. The Mueller report, right? That's, the Mueller report, they didn't decide to charge anybody in it. And that was all part 2 about obstruction of justice. But in part 1, they actually outlined exactly how all this stuff happened. They found Russian bought farms, and they were making fake Facebook accounts. They were making fake groups and getting people to join and just posting all kinds of disinformation and getting people really fucking riled up. And then they would actually schedule events from across the ocean, from another continent in Russia. They would schedule an event in the U.S. and they would get people to show up to this thing. And they were doing this in 2015 and 2016. And they haven't stopped doing it.
No, I agree. I mean, it's a pretty old tactic. Even what the news out of the Ukraine of the Russia like putting a lot of effort into staging false flag events. That's how Germany justified invading Poland to the rest of their people in 1939. Was oh look. There's newsreels of that they showed in theaters and stuff of Polish cavalry just on maneuvers, and the voiceover would be, "These are the Polish cavalry. They're massing on our borders," but they weren't. They were nowhere near their fucking borders.
Of course,
I mean, you can do that. It gives everybody that's confused and unsure and frustrated. It gives everybody, well, here's your scapegoat. This is who it is. It's immigrants taking your job. It's Justin Trudeau's mandates. It's masks. It's all this stuff that none of it is the real problem. The real problem is the 1% is pillaging the fucking planet.
Fucking agree 100%. They're basically taking all the money from everyone else, right? So you can retweet Elon Musk or something when he talks about the imaginary, 100,000 trucks. There weren't that many. You retweet him, but he's got more money. He could buy and sell like the other half of the country 200 times over. The amount of money that these people have is insane. It's ridiculous, and they want to maintain that. And they don't want you getting mad at them, right?
Well, that's the last thing. Divide and conquer, right?
Yeah.
It is divide and conquer. And the other thing is predictably, all of these people, these billionaires that people on the right tend to hero worship, all started off with a fuck ton of cash. It's not like, it's not like daddy owned or daddy was working in a factory. It was like, no. It was daddy owned an emerald mine.
A lot of them born into it, and they get, and I don't know. I mean, I hear some of the things that they say, and it's like they don't know what it's like when you have, like, say, a U.S. congressperson or even Trump or somebody complaining about you have to show your ID at the store to buy groceries, and it's like, no, you don't. When was the last time you were in a fucking grocery? Is anybody, now with the pandemic, I mean, this is before the pandemic that I'm talking about. Now it's like, if you show proof of vaccination for a restaurant or something like that, but still not the stores. They never did that with grocery stores. That's an essential service. So, but back to this idea is like, how would someone in 2016 not know that? No, they don't fucking ask you for ID at the grocery store. That means you don't go to the grocery store. That means you're hiring someone else to get all this stuff for you. Like, because that's where you're at. And now you're trying to relate to normal people, right?
Well, I find, like, and I mean, it's been done to death. We've all talked and thought about this a million times, but it's my frustration. One of my frustrations with the American. I would never call them the left because I don't think it is the left. The Democrats are kind of like the left end of the progressive conservative parties,
right? Yeah,
as the most. But Trump would have been easy to beat. When Hillary Clinton could have beaten Trump, it's not hard. All you do is bring up his war record, and you just use their own shit against them. Use their own. Keep it simple and just keep repeating it. He didn't do anything. He copped out. He refused to serve his country.
It's true, like 5
that
times.
Should be an issue.
5 times he did that, right? But you can counter that with the fact that I was talking to people all through that whole campaign, and by the time election time came, not only was it all about the emails and stuff, but a lot of these people, they're convinced that Hillary's like basically a murderer and a pedophile, and her and Clinton have this body trail. There's a body trail that goes back like 20 years. Here's all the missing people that died under mysterious circumstances. And, I start looking at all this. I'm like, really? I look it all up, and it's like, no, this person died, but it wasn't from what they said. This person couldn't have died that time. And it's like, when you really look into this stuff, most of it tends to fall apart. But you have to look into it, right?
Well, I also, don't get me wrong. I think that whenever one points out flaws in Donald Trump or the Republicans, it's sort of immediately assumed that you like the Democrats. And I think the Democrats are toothless, and it's a shit party. It's a compromise. AOC is about the only thing there's a few of them, but AOC, I'm interested to see where she takes it. But pretty much it's just a bunch of milquetoast that are going to roll over.
Yeah, they're old establishment. Old establishment Dems, I guess is what you could call them, and the liberals up here are like that too, in my mind.
Well, I agree. That's what people. Oh, Justin Trudeau's a dictator. No, he's just a vacuous pretty boy. He's a vacuous pretty boy that's got nothing going on. He's told what to say, and he does what he's told, and that's it. There's nothing else to him. He's not like. He's not an evil mastermind. He's way too stupid for that.
See, the U.S., and I'm not just talking about the right-wing outlets. Obviously, Fox News is pushing this dictator thing, but the New York Times was doing it too. New York Times talking about these sweeping powers, and it's like, okay, well, like you said, this is a minority government. You know what that means? It means that Trudeau's not getting anything done unless some of the other parties agree, right? And if you're watching from the States, Canada, there's like 5 parties right now that have seats in the House, four major, significant ones. And the Trudeau's not getting anything done unless like all of the NDP agree or all of the Bloc agree, and the Bloc's not going to agree to this emergency thing, which it hasn't even passed yet. The Conservatives the Conservatives are like Republicans now. They've made up their mind. This past month have convinced me they're no different now from the GOP. They're all in the same. They're going cross border. They're going on the same news networks. It's all coordinated. They're all going to say the same thing at the same time and use the same phrases. So that's what they're on now, right? And
I kind of thought the hope. Like I've always hated the Conservatives, but I also have to say that I think you and it was my buddy Mark and I were talking about it. But as much as I hated Harper, I never accused him of being a dictator.
Right.
He wasn't a dictator. He was a dick. But he wasn't a dictator. But it was an interesting one. This is something I was thinking about with them was in the last election, my sense was that Aaron O'Toole was attempting to outflank the Liberals. He was trying to be the centrist guy. He was going to be the Trojan horse of, look, I'm a reasonable human being. Here's for the Conservatives, and then the Conservatives would all come in, and nobody would be, and then the real conservative agenda would probably pop in. But my read on Aaron O'Toole was as much as I oppose him ideologically, I don't agree with his politics. I thought he was what you would have called a decent conservative. I think he was like a decent human being. I think Andrew Scheer is a fucking piece of shit, and Candice Bergen is a fucking piece of shit.
Oh my God, that's Miss Magga,
they're just
right?
terrible people.
Yeah. I guess O'Toole might have been. I guess if you're watching from the States, it would be like a McCain or something, maybe, or he would have been a McCain. Yeah, I think that's a good. But they forced him out. I'm convinced they forced him out. They didn't. They made up their minds that they're going to go with this Fox News rebel thing, and they're doubling down on it now. And so they're appearing on all these networks, and there's a lot of cross. Like Fox News was all up in Ottawa all month, building the story that they wanted to tell, right? You know, which may or may not have any resemblance to the actual stuff we were watching up here. Right?
I think I said this to you the other day when Tamara Lynch got put into got taken into custody and was put before a judge. She was wearing a fucking mask. Like that's not somebody. That's not somebody who really is an anti-masker and anti-vax. No. There's a whole other thing going on here.
Well, Fox News, they're all triple vaxxed at Fox News. That's been one of the hardest buildings. You don't even get into the building unless you're vaccinated. Tucker Carlson is vaccinated. Lou Dobbs was they're all fucking vaccinated. And then they go on every night telling people how horrible it is and that you shouldn't do it. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had an erection since I got that.
Well, there's. I didn't have that many side effects, and the third time I didn't have any side effects at all. I was telling this to a certain someone, and they said back to me, it was like, maybe you got the placebo.
Oh yeah, yes, those sneaky pharmacists.
This stuff comes so hard and fast. It comes from 360 degrees. You can't keep up with it because it's just easier to make some shit up. So there was this one about, well, you know what? While we're on the topic of the convoy, because this is back to what I'm getting though, is that like I don't want to take the piss too much. I don't want to vilify too much because there is real grievance there. People want to be heard. They don't know how to express it. They don't know. They didn't study civics. They don't even know how it works. A lot of them. They're being told this kind of simplified version, but there is something there, and you watch how fucking mad that they're getting at the news. This is something that I think it started out probably pretty bad and then just kept getting worse. So check it out. I'm gonna find a video here.
I'll put my glasses back on.
Yeah, here we go. Check this out.
Yeah, you're a piece of shit too if you're with them.
I am.
Yeah. You're a piece of fucking
What's your last name, Terrence?
I don't need to hear what's your last name?
McGregor.
Yeah? Why don't you fucking report the fucking truth for once?
We do every day.
No, you don't.
How do you know?
It's all fucking lies.
Do you watch?
I watch it, yeah.
You watch my newscast and you say it's all. What's wrong? Give me one. Give me 5 facts you think are wrong on our newscast.
You're with CTV?
Yes.
Yeah? Go look at all the fake reporters that fucking protesters were violent. Show me one video of protesters being violent. Show me one.
I didn't say. No one said protesters were violent.
I watched. I see the fucking thing this morning.
I've done every one of our.
Okay. So that's what these reporters are being faced with. This is not an isolated incident. This is the general tone. I've watched so much of this stuff. It's happening to all kinds of reporters. It was Evan Solomon, McGregor. Mostly they picked on CTV a lot. But here's like, show me one video of a protester being violent. Just one, you know. There you go. You see that? Let me go back there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't cut it in time. So this guy's reporting on the 22nd day of the siege. It fucking gets pushed. So there's the. Do you call that violent? I think I have to. Like you're actually physically pushing someone. Now, and what about just intimidation? What about just like surrounding someone and yelling at them? Check out this one.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. Yeah. Again, I mean, I know.
And I mean, there's a lot of these, right? So
I totally get like the what you're saying about the like people are upset they're not being heard, but there is what they're experiencing. Like I said this to you again the other day. I mean, we've all gone through periods of hardship with COVID, and a lot of people have had it really rough. A lot of people in downtown Toronto have become homeless during this.
More than ever.
This period. And that absolutely sucks. And I do understand the frustration, but at the same time, I think what a lot of people are complaining about, like when I was watching footage at the beginning of the convoy, you had people going, I haven't been able to watch my kid play hockey for 3 months. It's like, that's not a dictatorship, man. That's
not a dictatorship. That's an inconvenience.
That's an inconvenience. And I've got the same thing. My kid plays soccer. I haven't been able to watch him play in ages, and I love watching them play. It's just life. Just pull up your fucking adult pants and be a big boy.
I don't have much patience for that.
I don't either.
Somebody who really thought, the vaccine was going to fucking kill them, and broke down over this choice of, because they believed it, and they broke down over this choice of whether to keep your job or not, and then lost their job. I do feel a little bit for that, but again, that's still not a dictatorship. A dictatorship, they would have knocked on the door, two guys fucking hold you down and say, all right, buddy, you're getting this. We don't care what you say, right? That's dictatorship, right? This other thing it's a choice, but also you could look at it from the other way, and this is just people were just asked to do their part, to participate in something for the public good, right? To protect one another, to protect your neighbor, to protect your children, whatever, to keep numbers low and to prevent unneeded deaths, right?
There's a friend of mine that posted a bit about, if anything, you can kind of see it like a bit like the peanut allergy thing. I mean, when you have a school-age kid and you send them to school, you're not allowed to they're not allowed any peanut products in their food. Like, they're not allowed to have peanut butter or take peanuts or take like a Snickers bar or whatever to school. They're just not allowed to, in case a kid with peanut allergies ingests it. And that's, as my son doesn't have a peanut allergy. Now, when he was in grade, when he was in his younger years, you just go with it. Just fucking go with it. Just don't bother. Like, okay, no peanuts for you.
Yeah, no peanuts for you.
It's not. It's not a big fucking deal.
No smoking on the plane. No,
Yeah.
You have to stop at a stop sign, because when people don't stop at the stop sign, people end up being fucking dead.
Don't drink and drive.
Yeah.
Don't drink and drive.
So wear a mask in the store. Well, it's like you gotta wear pants in the store, right?
Yeah.
People aren't. And that's another thing I heard about Ottawa too, where it's like countless people just saying when they'd walk down the street, because they were wearing a mask, they were singled out. People would approach them, follow them, surround them, say, "What are you wearing your mask for?" I don't know if I heard of anybody actually ripping the mask off their face, like we see that in the States, but yeah, the vibes. I'm just very much getting a January 6th vibe out of these weeks. That this is kind of Canada's equivalent, right?
And much like that, there's a lot of the people taking part in the protests are not working class poor people. They're people that can afford to take 3 weeks off and put a hot tub in the middle of fucking Wellington Street or whatever that was. It's and just with January 6th, it was sort of like a rebellion of dentists.
That's true, right? January 6th, they had to. Well, I flew down on a private plane, and like a beautician or something.
I'll show them, man. I'm flying down on my private plane.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, how do you say? And I hate the fact that the states, and also now some news outlets in Canada, they're trying to play the whole dictator thing, and it's like, how do you, in a dictatorship, in China, you're not going to roll up on the Capitol building with trucks and fill up the whole fucking downtown core and honk for 10 days straight and have raves and parties and set up a big stage and roast pigs and have I'm sure some people had a beautiful time, but guess how long that would have lasted in China?
Well, I think that probably would have lasted about 48 hours, and the organizers would have been taken away, executed, and their organs would have been harvested.
That sounds about
and everybody
right.
Everybody else would have been sent to live with the Uyghurs.
Oh yeah, lovely, exactly, and that is a dictatorship.
That's a dictatorship.
Yeah.
No,
So it's like
not being able to sit at Timmy's is not fucking sit down at Timmy's is not a dictatorship.
No. Yeah.
They're to me, they're so fucking embarrassing.
It is a little embarrassing.
Yeah.
Just because the one thing the one thing that I don't know if it gets pointed out a lot, but they're originally the organizers who are not they're not the best people. Let's put it that way, right? Tamara Litch was the Maverick Party. Pat King, who was there's all kinds of videos of him out there just like talking about, again, it's always this theme of genetics. What is this genetics thing? It's the genetics is like you could say, oh, it's just racism, but it's a superiority complex. Like, my genes are better than this other person's, and my genes, in fact, are so good that I don't even have to worry about COVID. I think that's what that's the thing.
Oh, no, that's part of it too.
The thing that binds them. Or God will protect me. Maybe Jesus, the blood of Jesus will.
Well, Hitler was a big anti-vaxxer too.
Really?
Yes, it was all about building a superior race who didn't need vaccinations, who were strong and had these fantastic immune systems and were mythical.
Well, it's the same shit. It's the same shit.
So exhausting.
Same shit. Well, you look at the numbers in COVID, and really, frankly, all the people dying right now are like, they were going to die anyway. I know that sounds a little cold, right? But let's just, that's just grandma, right? That's like how many. That's a different mindset, dude. That's a different set of values, and I think that's why maybe there's this shock of people reacting. It's like, wait a minute, this isn't. You're not talking about how much tax rate or how much to spend on infrastructure. Like, you're fucking talking about which people deserve to live and which people deserve to die. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. So. Well, I think one sticks to this sort of thinking as long as it's not affecting them directly, and then right.
And what happened when it did? What happened when it did? What happened when they had to, you had to get vaccinated or you had to wear a mask or something? Then what happened? Now all of a sudden it's all about human rights. Now all of a sudden it's about crimes against humanity or whatever. It's like, dude, like, I've been concerned about crimes against humanity and human rights. Like I've never known you to care about this stuff. What was the difference? What was it that got you tweaking this time, right?
Well, I think you and I also were talking about the difference between this demonstration and the G20, because when the G20 thing happened, I was living about probably like 100 yards from where the police were first putting up barricades. I was living at Queen and Bathurst.
Well, right in it.
I think, and it's the barricades started around Spadina, but when you crossed Bathurst, there were already cops, and they're already like crossed Bathurst on Queen. You already were cops. So that was my neighborhood, and I think my kid was. I can't remember if he was in a stroller or not at the time, but I remember we were going to get pizza. Just at almost at the corner of Bathurst and Queen, there used to be a Pizziolo there, and I remember or a Motto. Could have been a Motto, but I remember going there and like a cop saying, "Hey, buddy, leave. Why are you here?" I live here. And they were very vigilant then, and they did kettling, and there was police brutality. Yeah, I don't think that
there was a lot.
Yeah, I don't think the protesters in Ottawa or seditionists.
You could call them that. Them. I mean, they got. I don't think. I mean, this is where I think a lot of them probably are new to protesting, and they don't know. I don't think they realized how light and how they were able to get away with like way much more than kind of anybody else has in the history of protesting. And this, oh fuck,
a lot more than Black Lives Matter or Indigenous protesters would get away.
Oh my
with
God,
Indigenous, for sure.
And the difference there is that the Indigenous aren't they're not actually going into someone else's town and occupying it. They're actually like right on their own land. They just they just don't want the pipeline going through or whatever it is. And you see the way they get treated. They get the military. They get treated like a dictatorship. So when you look at this from the Indigenous perspective, I saw this one guy was tweeting, and it's like it's really interesting, and it's fucking weird that I'm seeing all these white people, and they're talking about the flag disgusts me now, and now I see a truck with a flag on it, and I just feel unsafe, and I feel like I don't want anything to do. And we gotta take the flag back, right, as a force for good in the world, and this is the white person saying we got to take the white anti-convoy person, I guess you could say. We got to take this back from these people, and so it represents the good that it. And the indigenous person's just sitting there on the sideline going, "It's like you get it,
colonialism."
Because I don't. All of that to me just represents this. It's an occupation within an occupation, right?
Yeah.
So if we're going to take the flag, I would say if we're going to take the flag back, then we got to own that other part of it too. That's
right.
An important thing.
Yeah.
We all collectively have to own all of this. The fact that we have that many people fucking acting like this, and it does happen on the left too, and more so in the States. They got a head start, but the fact we got people this violent now, willing to sort of cross that line online, you get an enormous amount of death threats now for saying the wrong thing. We might get some right here. Who knows, right? And but now we're also seeing the age of vehicles being used as weapons. You could say the horns or whatever that you could say the residents in Ottawa, certainly they considered it like a form of torture because it's fucking loud and it didn't stop. It went on for 24 hours. But aside from that, in the States, there's like an enormous amount of instances where vehicles drove over protesters, drove into the crowds. It actually happened here, and it wasn't a very well reported story. It happened here in Manitoba, and I believe it was actually maybe a counter protester that did it. No one got hurt severely or anything. No one died, but they could have, and I guess that's the point. We're now at the point, and that story with the horse and that stuff, where actually it was China that came up with it, but this woman died. I mean, I got the video here. It's like she didn't die. She's up. She's on her feet like 30 seconds later, but she didn't die, but she could have, right? So that's the fact. We got to think collectively that this is where we're at now.
Well, I think you've got a point there. I think you're right. I think what's that saying? When the pot boils, the scum rises.
Yeah.
Right. There's you've got that going on quite a bit right now. And again, going back to sort of destabilization money from Putin.
And there's a fuck ton of it, unlimited, really.
That's where I would put my money on, where the money trail would all lead to, would be destabilization so as to get us all fighting amongst ourselves whilst Russia starts to take back its former Soviet empire.
That's it. So he can go into Ukraine and reinvade. That's the other phrase. Putin already has invaded Ukraine. He did that in 2014 when he took Crimea. Ukraine's been a sovereign nation since 1990. It was all officially ratified around the world in 1991, and ever since then, there have been these techniques, these disinformation techniques, and Ukraine has always fought this battle from trying to prevent themselves from crumbling within. Right, and you get like these prime ministers or the presidents that come up that are totally pro-Russia, right? It was like Yanukovych. They try to kill political opponents, poison them, jail them, revolutions. They keep trying to take it back, and then they keep getting these pro-Russia leaders that just steal all the money. And it's made possible by the fact that there are people in Ukraine who are very pro-Russia. And they're constantly being inflamed with this technique. And now this technique's been turned all over the world, right?
Yeah, well, I agree. And I really doubt that Putin's Russia would stop at Ukraine. When you think about the sea ice disappearing in the Arctic, and you realize how close Canada actually is to Russia.
Oh yeah,
and the natural gas reserves, etc., up there. I mean, it's really run by a madman, and it's interesting too because it's him and Trump were so tight. Ugh.
Oh, it is, but that's the dirty little secret behind all of this is that there's such a contingent in the West, in countries that are ostensibly against Russia, except are they really, right? How much prodding and poking does it take for Germany to say shut down the Nord Stream 2? That would be the most effective thing to do. Putin's going to use that gas as a weapon. He's going to weaponize energy. Say, you do the wrong thing. You don't let me get away with what I want. I'm cutting it off. So they should have never built it. But there was that much money to be made from building it that there was just so much political opposition within the German democratic structure, just like every other country in the world, that the decisions are not being made anymore by the people we vote for. We vote for them.
No, they're made by the corporations.
They're made by the corpotions. So that's we've got to root that out or change it somehow. Some people want to tear the whole fucking thing down. I don't know. Maybe it's just gradual and just from the bottom up. Just start getting serious people in.
You're talking about the modernists again.
Postmodern. the hamburger school the Frankfurter school of Marxist cultural
George Peterson again. Because I actually wanted to, because I didn't finish that point about Peterson too, because I think I wanted to make the point that I think he just used the whole argument with or his victimization of trans people. He picked a fight with them because he had it. I think the idea came out of a boardroom, like a publicist saying we need a story. So it's like he's thinking, well, my audience is white, middle-aged, younger to middle-aged men who feel disenfranchised for whatever reason, whether that's imagined or not, isn't the point. But so who would be a good group, like a good group to scapegoat? Well, the trans community. And I think that's what he did. I think that's where it all started. And if you notice, he did that about 6 months before the book came out.
Right. And that was a common theme, and he wasn't the only one. I mean, there's a whole... They're fixated with it, dude. I couldn't believe how often people that watched that kind of programming, they're always talking about trans.
For you.
What the hell?
They're coming for you.
Yeah.
They're going to make you use different pronouns. So I have to be polite. Is that what I have to do? It's be polite and civil. That's a tough thing to do.
So you don't want to call someone what they want to be called, right? Because I get to call you whatever. This is what it comes back down to. Again, I just get to do whatever the fuck I want to do. Yeah. It doesn't matter how it affects anyone else, because I've got a right to do that. And maybe to a certain degree you do, but not if there are limits to that, right? There are limits to that.
And just fucking, basically a rule: don't be a dick. Like, why does it matter to you if somebody wants to be referred to by a certain pronoun? It doesn't matter to me. Just I couldn't care less. If somebody says to me, please call me he, she, them, whatever, sure. Yes, I'll do that. Yeah, it's because that's what you do as a decent human being. Just as I would prefer to be called Al or Alun or anything but fuckhead. Yeah. Generally, although fuckhead's okay too. But whatever but you know what I mean. It's just about being civil and polite. And so Peterson, I think that was a planned strategy to get publicity. And then where I was going with that, he had his audience, the target audience, and he came across at first of being kind of like logical and making sense. Right. As long as you didn't question too much, as long as you didn't read his book, because it's pretty bad, dude. It's really, that's where the name The Lobster Man came from, was because his whole first chapter is about hierarchies, and you can become a better person if you square your back and clean your room and all that stuff, and you don't get addicted to antidepressants or whatever the fuck it was that he became addicted. It's like, if he shouldn't be given life advice, man. Anyway, my point is that when I did that song, I did the sampling, is he is gone absolutely batshit crazy now. He may have made sense 10, 15 years ago on TVO, and I actually kind of, like I said, enjoyed him as a guest, but he went absolutely, the last couple of years, he's gone absolutely batshit crazy. And will say anything like climate isn't real. Have you heard that one?
I heard that one.
Climate isn't real. I mean, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything.
Well, that's you can, if you want to pick words apart to the point where words don't mean anything anymore, then I guess nothing means anything anymore. But isn't that what he's fighting against, though? Isn't that postmodernism? Isn't that what he's actually saying that he's against?
Yeah, right? Well, I think you have a point there. He's either a fucking genius and he's just having a laugh.
Well, I think he's having a rough time. Check it out. Cube zoom, man. Cube zoom again. That's my favorite.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, here we go. Oh, there we go.
While we're on the topic, right? Yeah, the lobster thing. That's when he stops making sense, because he'll talk about, he'll mention 18 different fucking things, right? It's like,
and none of them are in his lane.
Right.
None of them. He's not. He's not an environmental biologist or evolutionary biologist. He's a clinical psychologist. And if he's stuck in his lane, maybe he'd make a lot more sense. He shouldn't be talking about the differences between men and women. Men are like lobsters, and women are kind of like jellyfish. They have a sting.
Oh, God.
I'm giving him ammunition. He's probably ripping me off right now.
That's it. Do you think he's really losing his mind, or is he just saying, hey, I'm doubling down on this whole ecosystem here? Right? Because,
I think he's lost his mind. I mean, I actually felt bad sampling stuff by the end of it, because I felt like it was like low-hanging fruit.
Right. Yeah.
I felt like I was picking on somebody that wasn't capable. Mm-hmm. Right? Because he really doesn't make any sense.
He used to be sharper than he is now.
Yeah, he did.
I remember 2-3 years ago, I was thinking man, fuck, I don't know. I'm not sure I would want to debate that guy, right? But just because, not because I think he's right, because I think he's really fucking good at debating.
He's good on his feet I thought that too until I saw him on the Jim Jeffries show. That was really good. Jim Jeffries did a good piss take on him. The thing with him, and quite honestly, 2-3 years ago, maybe even 6 months ago, I was worried about him running for political office for the Conservatives.
Still not too late. Still not too late.
He said so much crazy shit now.
But that's what gets you voted in now. That's a plus. That's a feature, not a bug. The more fucking crazy you are, the shit they have in the States. I'm running for Congress. I got a fucking machine gun. And we're shoot a bunch of shit, and then they win. Well, they win on that stuff.
Yeah, I think that he could maybe get elected in Alberta on some level, but it's not going to wash. A lot of what he says in Canada now, as such a multicultural country, as well as a place where we let women vote.
Well, there's that. But I think we also have to be careful about. Got to be careful about Canadian exceptionalism.
No, I agree.
Canadians Americans will tell you too. Americans might be a bit rude or whatever, or more in your face, but Canadians, to them, we're a bit, we think we're better, kind of. Canada's nicer. Yeah. We're nicer. We're more civilized. We'll give people more chances. It really takes a lot to piss us off. It's no, dude. We're discovering fucking We're discovering mass graves. It's schools now, right? We're no fucking better. So. Back to this point about taking back the flag. If you want to take back the flag from these other people who are also Canadians, maybe you don't admire the way they think. It's not much, I don't want to be their best friend, but I just think out of our own self-preservation, we got to think how different are we all really when we talk about taking back that flag, right? Yeah. What does the First Nations guy think, right, when he's watching all this stuff?
What do new Canadians think?
What do new Canadians? Yeah. I mean, I guess a lot are happy to get out of the dictatorships and stuff. I did see, it was interesting in the convoy, I did see a lot of people that it seemed like they were kind of English as a second language. They had really heavy accents and stuff. That doesn't mean anything, but I wonder what it would be if you moved here, you're like, wow, I'm in Canada, and then someone told you, hey, Trudeau's a dictator. Because this is what they did in the States. They told, it was the Epoch Times out of China. Yeah. China's another bad actor with this disinformation.
Oh, I agree.
It's not Chinese state doing this, though. This is like an expat of China. He hates China now. So he hates China. He's funded with the Falun Gong and stuff. So it's actually a kind of very weird, contradictory message where it's very against China, but he's also in the kind of Western far right world. Yeah. At the same time. Yeah. So anyway, during the Biden election, 2020, there was a massive campaign in the southern states, mostly in Florida, but also in Arizona and Texas. And the idea was it was these Spanish radio and print articles, and were all written in Spanish and spoken in Spanish. And they were trying to convince people, expats from people who came from Venezuela, from Cuba, that Biden was a socialist. That Biden is going to be the same thing that you just worked so hard to get out of and escape. Biden's going to be the same thing. So I mean, I think that there's another fear that they have figured they can prey on. And it works.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I have been guilty of being a bit smug. I think thinking it won't happen here, but you're right. I'm sort of I suppose I'm a bit emboldened or a bit optimistic because they don't have the popularity in the polls that they had at the beginning of the. They look like a bunch of crazy bellends right now.
The convoy does, yeah,
and that's
but you know what?
That's really
but
good.
The Conservative Party gained some points.
Did they?
That's what really matters. Yeah, they gained like 7 or 9 points.
Really?
Yep,
is that where they're at right now?
I think they got that. That was one poll that I saw. I mean, polls you can't trust them all, obviously. And if you want to play the poll game, you should look at all of them too, right? Yeah. Make not just one. But I did see that floating around. The Conservatives were actually gaining some popularity after all this, which is weird because it was it was Ford that let all this stuff happen. He's the one that let it go on for so because he wouldn't do anything.
You're talking provincially. I mean, basically provincially, and Andrea Horwath
his jurisdiction. His jurisdiction.
But in Ontario, there's no opposition to him. I mean, Del Duca is not electable, and neither is Andrea Horwath. They've got neither one of them have anything to offer.
But if you want to get rid of Ford, it's going to have to be one of them, right?
I know.
That's how it works.
I mean, I will vote.
So
I'll probably hold my nose and vote NDP.
We're all fucked, right? If you're from out west, if you're from out west and you fucking hate Trudeau, and you realize that the Conservatives actually got the popular vote in that last election, but didn't get the seats, though, right? So, no go.
Yep.
So if you're feeling like your voice isn't being heard, then join the fucking club because it's all of us. And this is where I think we got to start working together. If we can get past this stuff, if this stuff doesn't spiral out of control and explode into like a bloodbath of whatever the fuck, right?
We need an election. We definitely need. I mean, as does the states. We both need electoral reform for sure. All of our votes should count the same, and they don't.
This is something you can fault Trudeau for. Actually, I know. I know. My problem with him is a very different one. It's like he said he was going to change that. That was the problem. He never did. So
that's the thing with Trudeau. His whole thing started with, well, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to help deal with indigenous issues as well. He didn't do anything, and he's not going to do anything because that's what liberals do. They don't do anything. They stay to the status quo, and then the Conservatives just cut and sell the whole fucking place to their donors, and then the NDP just go, I don't know.
You'll notice that the NDP, when one of Ford's first acts as premier was destroying a Democratic election in Toronto, which was underway. He destroyed it, right?
Yeah.
So the Liberals didn't have very many seats in Ontario at the time, so the NDP were the official opposition. And what did they do? Not very much. They blamed Liberals, right? So that's what they've been doing. They just blame Trudeau, and I know why. I know because out west, the people out west don't vote for Liberals, but they might vote NDP.
Yeah,
and the reason they don't is because they hate Liberals, and especially they hate Trudeau. A lot of these people hated Trudeau before he was even Prime Minister. He was already getting blamed for the price of cheese on the moon before he even became
Mr. Trudeau.
Yeah. So I'm not saying saying I love him, but I'm just saying that this hate is fucking. That's part of what drove people to drive across the country.
It's not even him though. I mean, he's like I said. I think he's a pretty vacuous, empty human being. I don't think there's much going on there. I mean, I liked his dad, but Well, I like parts of what his dad did, but I think he's a pretty vacuous, empty guy that was just, liberal handlers got to him and got him to do what they wanted him to do. But I don't think he has any policies. I think he's just a face, I
think very much so. Yeah. Like, what do you think? What do you think your ideal leader would be like? I'm don't pick someone that already exists. You get to design a political leader from the ground up. What are they like?
Well, I mean, I could say everything I know right now. I like AOC a lot, but she's not Canadian, right? But I like the fact that you take somebody who's working class and has lived in multiple tiers of existence and had a lot of life experience in terms of dealing with different types of people. That's the sort of leader or the sort of politician that I would like, would be someone that's actually experienced the world from different perspectives, and it doesn't,
that's super important.
Yeah, because you gain empathy for people. You gain a way of interacting and of being able to communicate. And I think a great deal of the problem with parties, from all of the parties that I've encountered, there's been a couple of politicians that I knew personally that ran for the NDP that I thought were great, and they didn't get in.
Charlie won. Right?
Other friends of mine that ran in different parts, like more rural parts of Canada and stuff.
Yeah.
I think would have been great. I think we need more women in Parliament.
Do they have to come from the working class, or do they have to have had a period in their life where they just didn't have money? Like, is that a prerequisite, or is that?
For me, I think it's important that you've got people that have got that experience. Perhaps they didn't have to be working class. I'm not sure. This is all like, we're just sort of, jamming here. But I mean, that's what a lot of what I like about AOC. I mean, her mother was a maid, and she worked as a bartender and got herself through university. You've got to admire that. That takes courage and strength and I haven't seen. I mean, I don't know all of the politicians in Canada, obviously.
No.
I would like to see more women. I'd like to see more minorities represented. Like it's still a bit of a white man's game.
Yeah,
and what we've proven is that we're incapable of doing it properly, so we should let other people do it.
Well, that's it too, right? It's gonna go. Yeah. I'd like to see the money taken out of it. I like.
That's a great point too. Like make lobbying completely illegal.
Yeah, like this shit with the Emergencies Act, which I guess maybe they debated on. Maybe it's something we could look up, because I think today they were supposed to debate on it. They cleared out all these. They cleared out Ottawa. I don't know if it'll pass. But I'm starting to think that maybe they should be keeping this part about the cyber, or about the money coming in from other countries, strange websites, the donors. Because what happened, right, when you limit the amount, it used to be that just somebody could just write a big huge check. But as that gets broken up, now the game is like, get a lot of people mad online, $50 here, $50 there. But also you can automate that, just like they did in Breaking Bad, right? You can actually launder money through this system. Not saying that they did. Some people think it's suspicious, but I'd like to see a little bit more transparency there, right?
Well, I mean, that's one of the interesting things. Is why you'll never be a conservative, because I think you definitely need watchdogs at different levels, constantly checking out what's going on, so you can figure out where the money's going, who's getting the contracts.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, on a funny note,
we got if you don't have just to build on that, if you don't have watchdogs, what ends up happening is that the food is toxic, the cars blow up, insurance doesn't pay out when it owes you. Like nobody commits to what they even said they were going to do. Like what happens is nobody gives a fuck. Some people have to be made to give a fuck. right?
Not everybody. I agree. It ends up that you're dealing with Rogers and Bell for everything.
Oh yeah.
It's sort of like, you need us, so fuck you. Too bad. No,
so
it's funny.
That's where regulation comes in, right?
I agree.
The convoy fundamentally was more about deregulation than it was about freedom. If you really think about it along those terms.
I absolutely think you're right. Another point that I found was really interesting, and this isn't the convoy, but it's sort of the same sort of political landscape, was there's the bit on TVO a couple of months ago about the housing crisis. And of course they interview a couple of people from the real estate, the Ontario Real Estate Board and that, and it's all about, and developers are going, it's the government, there's too much red tape. It's those pesky environmentalists. Like one of them was saying, pesky environmentalists. It's like, but then you point out that there's currently something like 45,000 empty condo units in Toronto right now that are owned by foreign investors. It's like, fuck,
exactly what it is, dude.
There's some affordable housing. Like, just,
city councils in Canada, provincial governments in Canada, there's this tremendous housing boom. What we talked about at the beginning of the show with China, with the empty buildings. It's like we're doing that here too. And guess whose money we're taking? We're taking money from authoritarian China and billionaires that want to park it, and from the Putin oligarchs in London, England. Not only are they taking the money in London, it's like your one-stop shop. You can launder all of your shit there, and you can send your kid to private school.
Yeah,
and
and I'll come up with a glorious accent at the end.
Well, that's it. So are we serious? Are we really serious about national security? Are we gotten to the point where this is all just like one big con job, right? Where it's just like all these rich people, it's just like, we're against Russia, we're against this, sanctions, we know we won't do anything about it. And it's like, is this why so much disinformation is allowed into the country? Is this why there are all the empty buildings? Is this why people are at each other's fucking throats? Right? Is this why governments are now, trying to deal with this shit? Meanwhile, there's a war going to start in Europe.
Yeah.
While we're paying attention to trucks and weekend raves and hot tubs and bouncy castles.
Hot tubs, bouncy castles.
Some people went to that thing, I bet they had a very positive experience. I think a lot of people are not lying when they say that they went and they were the nicest people in the world. And I think for a lot of people that was the experience, but that wasn't the whole story. You know what I mean?
Well, I think if you're white and male and you weren't wearing a mask, I think you're probably fine.
Yeah, there's that too, right?
Yeah, but I think that played a role in it.
Do you want to? Shit, I noticed we got 2 hours, dude. That's fucking awesome, man. That we have good talking there. But I wanted to play that the truck song because it just ties.
Okay, let's play the truck song.
It ties in everything beautifully, and. Okay.
This is like I think we talked again about this the other day. I mean, you still can handle watching hockey.
Yes.
I absolutely loved hockey. I played hockey for 25 years on a men's rec team. I loved it. I watched every Leafs game. I never missed any. But in the last bunch of years, with all the advertising, I can't watch it. Like I can't watch 30 seconds of action and then 3 minutes of commercials. It just drives me insane, especially the whole thing of a lot of them are truck commercials and they're trying to sell kind of like your dick will be bigger if you buy a Dodge Ram or Ford F-150 or you'll be more of a man. Ford tough. Dodge Ram makes my dick look big.
It's like the car commercials are becoming beer commercials.
Oh yeah, it's just really fucking annoying. So I can't watch them anymore. So this was sort of inspired by trying to watch hockey at the beginning of the last pandemic. The same pandemic. The beginning of whenever hockey started up again.
Season. That's the word you're looking for. Season. Yeah.
And
it's getting dumber too.
Yeah, so I just wrote sort of a car commercial, and then I put some Jordan Peterson and some other bits, and then I kind of forgot about the song until the Convoy started up, and then I guess it would have been 3 weeks ago with the Convoy starting up. I've got to bring this song back. So yeah, I did a lot of sampling on it and a nice little dancey beat.
So but starting from the commercial thing, I mean, I watched the Super. I don't know. Did you watch the Super Bowl? Because every year the commercials. People watch the commercials. They want to see the halftime. They want to see the commercials. But what I'm noticing about the commercials every year, they're getting to trending more and more towards infantile every year. And I think I finally found the commercial that to top all commercials, and it was from Uber Eats. And the idea was that, okay, Uber Eats is not just for food anymore. We won't just go to the restaurant. We'll go to the store and we'll pick up all this other shit, right? We'll pick up some cat litter for you, or some dish soap. And they're fucking showing this guy eating cat litter out of a cereal bowl. They're showing this other dude like with a bottle of dish soap, and he's drinking it. And I'm like, don't show this during the Super Bowl. And sure as shit, it was one of the U.S. agencies for health, or maybe it was the toxicology center. I forgot who it was, but they had to tweet. It's like, do not drink soap. Soap's not good for you.
Well, you do remember they had a president a couple years ago telling people to inject bleach to kill. Yeah, that'll help inject bleach. Some people. I just shit my pants.
Some people end up fucking doing this stuff, right? It's not. I don't think it's very many.
They do.
I just think they're suggestible, and they don't know any better, and they're just too trusting or something. But the Poison Control Center does get an influx of calls anytime somebody says some shit like this.
Yep. Yeah. I remember reading about and then ivermectin, right? Ivermectin, yeah, that's the one. And hydrochloroquine, which Trump owned shares, and Trump owned shares in that company. Yeah, that's a good source of information.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, there was this thing going around, and it was a TikTok video. It's like, here's how you can make your own hydrochloroquine. It's like, ooh,
this looks God.
Okay, so what you do is you take like 5 grapefruits and a couple lemons, and you boil it down for a couple hours, and it gets really bitter. And maybe it's just the skin from the peels. You boil it down until it's really concentrated, and that's like homemade hydrochloroquine. And it's like, I don't think that works. I took chemical engineering in school, and I didn't really know how hydrochloroquine was made. I had to look it up, but I had a feeling it was like one of those very synthetic things, not naturally occurring, that you have to like fucking get you got to do stuff, centrifuge or pressure or distillation. You got to do something, a bunch of reactions. Like, it's synthetic, right?
You can't just boil a bunch of citrus, is what you're saying.
No. So it turns out that was true. But citrus does contain a chemical called limonene, limonene, and that actually is shown to have some health benefits and possibly antiviral benefits. But nowhere does the recipe mention that, right? So if they had done their research, they wouldn't be talking about hydrochloroquine. They'd be talking about limonene, which they're not, which shows you again, it's just that one little layer. You just gotta like look things up. And if the site looks like fucked up, if they're selling supplements on the site, if they're selling like, I don't know what else. It's mostly supplements, right? If there's like a bunch of church groups on there, if there's like donate because because Own the Libs send $50 today, that's not the right place to be looking for your information, right?
No. No.
Also, I'd say if it's like the communist Marxist society for studies, and I'm not anything that's got like a serious political bent. If you can tell right off the bat, if you see that something's very political, very religious, very ideologically oriented, it's not going to be factual news. It's going to be opinion, and
we were talking about that earlier. We were talking about the whole how Fox and RT are quite similar in how they report.
Yeah. Pretty much identical now. RT, by the way, is Russian state TV.
Yeah,
it's Putin TV.
What I thought was really odd at the beginning of the convoy when it started up was just how similar. I checked on Fox's website and I checked on RT's website and how they were reporting on various international stories was pretty much, they're kind of the same thing.
Well, they're actually showing now. It's gotten to the point where Tucker Carlson, for instance, he gets just shown. The whole segment gets shown on Russian TV now because it doesn't contradict the message at all. It's the same messaging now. So, yeah, so they will play Fox News.
Comrade Carlson.
Well, that's what people were saying, and it's not just him. And of course, up here we've got Rebel News up here, and
oh my God,
Rebel News in Australia, and it's a feedback loop basically. It doesn't matter who comes up with it first anymore because they'll all play it all at once. Watch the synchronization next time and watch what the representatives and say the GOP and now the Conservatives in Canada, watch them all say the same thing at the same time, almost the exact same words.
Yeah. Well, because they're lizard people.
Yeah, I can't even do that. Because here's the problem with the conspiracy theories in my totally uninformed opinion, right? Is that there are real conspiracies in the world. There are a handful of rich people that are fucking taking all the money away. Life could be so much better if these people
if they shared it. Yeah.
Well, they don't have to, they could still be way richer than everybody else, right?
If they weren't able to hide all their money in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, they could still be wickedly wealthy, more than anybody else would ever see. But that would be fine. But they don't have to be 800 times that wealthy, 800 times the richest you could ever imagine, which is what we're dealing with now. That's how much. And they do collaborate, and they do make sure that these politicians are
angry. Why do you think the rich are so angry all the time? Like Conrad Black is not a happy fella.
I don't know. That is a good question. Why are they?
They're always so.
Are they angry? Are they angry or just cynical? Are they just taking the piss? Is the anger just the anger's for the people below to get them on their side, but it's not for them. They're not really angry, but they want to make everybody else angry.
I just think that they're like so. I don't know. Maybe having all of this stuff and they're still not happy.
Oh well, yeah, like psychologically, maybe just a bad childhood where nothing will make you happy. Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm saying, is no matter what you give them, they're always going to want more and think that somehow somebody else has gotten a better deal than they have.
Well, I mean, I think, if...
We should ask Jordan Peterson.
How can anyone born in Canada or the U.S. or any of these richer countries, how could they possibly think that they got a better deal than someone in China? Or like worse, or some of these countries in Africa were like turning over to a coup every like half a decade, constant wars. We went through how many years did we go through without really an attack on like a physical, there was 9/11 in the States, but we haven't seen war here, like not for my whole lifetime.
No.
That's lucky.
There hasn't been an attack on the American or like mainland, North American, Canada, U.S. since forever.
Yeah, 9/11 is all I can think of. Right?
Yeah,
that was a terrorism event. It was an attack, but it wasn't like a national. The war is still going on, but it's in the cyberspace right now.
I don't even know what's going on with that one. I mean, all I know is they invaded Afghanistan to get rid of the Taliban, and 20 years later, the Taliban are still there.
Well,
it was not an effective war, if that was ever what it was really about.
Yeah.
I suspect it was more about mineral rights in the Gulf.
rare earth minerals, yeah. Of course, follow the money. These conspiracies almost always boils down to the money in the end, doesn't it? If you can follow the money, you could probably solve the mystery.
Follow who benefits.
Yeah.
Right? Follow the money as to who benefits.
It's not lizards. It's not like, eating babies or some shit like that. human trafficking is a real thing. That's a real problem.
Oh, it is.
People who are concerned about that kind of will tend to get very upset when they hear these conspiracy theories, right? It's like, you're going to be concerned about that, but you're blaming like Bill Gates. It's like, why are you taking this energy away from the real people that we already know are doing it, right? Because do you really care about the issue? Or are you just kind of using it, you know?
Didn't one of Epstein's side guys hang himself the other day?
Just another one bites the dust on that. I mean, you've got Prince Andrew involved with this. You got Trump. Was it Clinton too? There was a Democrat. I think it was on his plane and at his island and all this shit.
I don't think there's a lot of difference between those kinds of people. I think they're all pretty, you know.
Yeah.
I don't see Trump and Clinton as being particularly different people. I mean, Trump's a bit more of a, more obviously a piece of shit, but Bill Clinton was a piece of shit too.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with that. How does anybody get to that level? Like, here's the other idea. It's like, can you even win? Can you even get to be a prime minister or president of a country without being a little bit like fucked up, a sociopath or something, right? Is it even possible to play that game and win?
Can you be a successful politician without being a sociopath or a narcissist?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, the whole thing's rigged, man, and it kind of is. But so we got to just start like blaming the right people, you know,
or just start drinking more.
Well, that too, you know. We go back to the truck. So
back to the truck.
I'm gonna try a different transition there because I'm just so happy about it all. Let's try. What did I have here that I haven't? Ooh, the slide. Let's do the slide.
Okay, let's see this.
Woo.
Well, that was good.
Yeah, I like the slide. I'll do it again, just on top of itself. Boom, me. Oh. Boom.
There. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So let's listen. We've been talking 2 hours and a half, so that's good, eh? We got all.
Yeah, that's good.
This is going to piss some people off, right? We can expect the
I don't have to go to a therapist this week.
There we go. It's all good. So we'll enjoy the dulcet tones of Jordan Peterson for a bit. Let's see, how does that work? Yes.
Coming all the way from Buttfuck, Ontario. Here we go. Oh yeah, this sounds good. Sounds really good. Buckle up. Step on it, buddy.
Is that the heavy metal pedal on the bass?
No, that's I think I'm going through the Abbey Road Saturator.
Sick.
It's direct. It's in the box. It's not I bought all the Abbey Road plugins.
Oh, nice. Yeah, those are great. I'm gonna get some water.
I'll get some too.
Convoy across Canada. I want a truck. 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 Locked in the car with our seat warmers, using lots of gas cause it's our freedom. I want a Big Mac with a side order of pussy. You can watch the shows, you can binge and post. Sit for me outside with my eyes on the road. I want a blowjob, sausage gravy. I want a truck.
I want a truck. I want a truck. I want to fuck shit up.
It's rough out there. Sometimes a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. Buckle up tight. Relax back into that luxury all leather interior. Drive down that highway we call life. Dodge Ram. Makes my dick look big. Real big. I want a truck. 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 I want a
Truck.
I want a truck. I want a truck. I want a truck.
Yeah, man. Go long yet.
Classic, man.
That
Just get
was
it out
fun.
there. What's that? What's that show? Oh, you got a St. Paul Antifa shirt on there, I see.
Yeah, St. Pauli, the soccer team from
there you go.
Hamburg. Their whole thing was whilst a lot of soccer supporters in the 70s and 80s were quite right wing, they went quite the opposite direction. So it's sort of all-inclusive, anti-racist, anti-homophobic.
Yeah.
That
would have made some interesting get-togethers there at the matches.
Oh, yeah.
Battle of Waterloo shit, right?
There was a few fights, yeah. That's interesting. Like a lot of the soccer teams in different parts of Europe, like, you know, were like what Barcelona represents to the people of Barcelona is a lot different than, say, what the Leafs represent to us, right? Like, it's identity. It's the Catalans resisted Franco, right? Like, that's pretty.
It's like history built into the team.
Yeah. That's and that's the same with St. Pauli. It's I like all of that stuff, you know.
That's yeah.
Oh, it's a cat.
I never looked at the Leafs that way, like in terms of
Well, the Leafs are kind of. I mean, it's interesting because if you look at the history of sports in Toronto, there used to be like teams that represented different groups of people, like Catholics and Protestants mainly, but there used to be a pretty strong soccer community before the Second World War, and you had like the Ulster Red Handers who played out of what's now Greenwood Park. They were a soccer team, and they were a Protestant team with roots to Northern Ireland, and then there was a Scottish team, and then there was a Catholic team, and then like it was a different thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly got that here, but I guess maybe not in the. I was in Montreal once. Somebody was talking about that this street was the dividing line between Catholics and Protestants at one point.
Really,
the city was like divided in half or something. I think that's what she was saying, right? That it was like, and it was bad, right? Like people were fucking mean to each other. They did shit to each other. They fought.
Oh yeah. Oh, my cat's taking my water. Oh. Where is she? Can you see her?
I just saw the tail there.
She is drinking my water.
But, you could kind of make it out.
There she is.
Hello.
That cat's named Javi Cat. She's named after the Barcelona midfielder Javi.
There we go.
It's my son named all of his kids or his cats after different soccer
So he's still playing. How's he doing? Like he's like been at it for a while now. He must be he's pretty damn good.
He's playing. He's playing on a U21 team right now, just in North Toronto or in North York team, neighborhood team. He's enjoying himself. You know, it's good.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm just starting to get into soccer in a way that I haven't before. Like I'm actively seeking out games, watching them, like starting to follow, starting to find teams that I like, teams that I don't, and it just wasn't. I actually played a little bit in high school, but I just never.
Right on.
Watched it as a TV sport or whatever. But now I am, and Canada's doing so well. That's the one thing. It's really changing.
Yeah. Well, there's a game on the 27th of March. We're playing Jamaica at BMO.
Nice. Did we qualify for? Did we clinch it or not for the World Cup on that last game?
Pretty much. But I think we could use another win.
Yeah.
I think if we win it, like if we finish first, it's gonna look. We're in the group. We'll look really good.
Oh yeah.
We'll get seated better, and we've moved up to 33 in the world. 33rd. 30. Oh, here comes a cat. This is a cat that broke my computer, and she's wrecked a few things.
That sounds like another 10.
Yeah, she's a good one though.
Yeah, so I was watching Toronto FC. You took me out to some of those games back in the before times.
In the before day. Well, I got seasons tickets again. So I mean, if you want to go this year, for sure.
Well, that's outside too, and the numbers are going down a bit. We'll see what happens. In the summer, I think we'll probably unless there's some weird variant that comes out of nowhere, we're gonna probably be all right by then, right?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, there's no guarantee that the variants are going to get milder and milder, though. I was reading an article about that in The Guardian the other day.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We'll
have to
hey,
see.
if that happens, I'll just keep doing what I've been doing, which is I'm on the more extreme end of not doing stuff, being really careful, limiting contact, all the stuff. It's I really pulled back for 2 years, and you know what? That doesn't bother me. I'm lucky that I got to replace and I got to move some things around. I didn't lose a job over it, so that's a point of luck and privilege. But it's not the pandemic doesn't bother me. What bothers me is the way people are responding to it.
Yeah, sense. If you're the kind of person that is a bit of a loner at heart anyway, which I sort of found myself becoming that. I've actually it's been good for me. And I'm not rolling in cash or anything, but I also very lucky to get by. So
yeah. Well, I want to start this band. I want to start this hardcore what a grindcore band.
Oh, yeah.
Just make the most ridiculous, obnoxious music, if you want to call it that. That's my vision, anyway.
This will be the guitar I'll be using because it's got those Rio Grandes in it, and it's a really heavy guitar, heavy. It's funny to play a Telecaster. It's a Tele, but it doesn't. It sounds more like an SG.
Oh, I can hear the sustain on that one.
Oh yeah.
Rio Grandes are nice thick pickups too, right? So
I love them on this. I tried having them on my Les Paul though, and it was too much. They were too thick,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got the longer scale on the Fender, right?
I do, and I prefer the longer. I've got huge hands, man. So I like the longer scale.
Get a bit more snap out of the strings that way too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been using on my Les Paul, I use 11s. On this, I'm using 11s. I might even go up to 12s on this one.
Well, that's getting in some thick territory. I'm down to 11s now.
Yeah,
I'm getting lighter with age now. Yeah.
Are you still? Do you still have yours in drop C? Your Explorer?
I've got a lot of guitars now, so yeah, about half of them are still in drop C, and those are the 12 to like, I think it's something stupid like 12 to 56. They're not even slinkies, so that the bottom strings are really thick, which I think you need, because a lot of them are shorter scale too, so you don't,
right.
Just the whole tune, you need some pretty thick when you're down at like a drop C.
Yeah.
You need a pretty thick string, and then this 12 up top, but because it's detuned, it's like, it plays about like an 11, I guess. But on the longer scale guitars, and like I got 7 strings, and those are all like in standard, but with the extra B, and those would be like 11. But again, with the 7 string, if you're down to like a drop A or something, you need like a 60.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
Thick piece, because it's almost like a bass string almost, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I remember, I've never gone lighter than 10s, and most my Telecasters have got 10s on them. But I couldn't. I know a lot of guys that were going. Do you remember when it was like 9s, 8s, even some people going to 7s? Like that was that's crazy. I can't.
The hair days, man. Yeah. And action so low, like every note buzzed. Yeah. Every note just buzzed, and it didn't matter because you weren't trying to play. Everything was distorted, and you were just trying to like rip, right?
Yeah.
So that was the thing, man. I couldn't play guitar like that now. That would drive me nuts. I don't like that. I like a bit of action. I do have some guitars, I call them the shred guitars. So they do have a bit lower action than that, but they're not. It's not like back in the day when I was trying to play like the Steve Vai shit, and I was trying to do all that stuff. Like there was no action on the. Yeah. Everything was buzzing. Right. It was ridiculous. No tone. Right.
I've always said kind of high action. I think because when I first was playing, I was playing on really shitty guitars, and I got used to sort of high action, and I prefer it. I'm getting used. This one is so weird. Like it's like having the action is pretty low on this, but it's the neck, the way it's such a weird shape to the neck. It's almost like the fretboard. It kind of goes. It almost like it goes. It doesn't go in, but it feels like it does. It feels like you kind of feel like you're reaching over and into the strings as opposed to on top. You know
so
what I mean?
Like a really flat neck, like not a lot of radius kind of idea.
Yeah, there isn't. It's really flat. Yeah. Yeah, but it's a cool guitar.
Yeah, it looks amazing. I'm looking forward to hearing it sometime,
Well, it's all over the stuff I'm recording right now, which is...
Oh, well, there you go.
It's sort of a jangly pop record. It's either that or my Telecaster through a Vox AC4.
Nice. Yeah, I love the jangly tones. You get those really well. Like you know how to get those sounds. I struggle with those kinds of tones. I guess it's heavy, like metal. Like I always dial in too much low end, and
Yeah, it just crank the treble.
yeah. I have to learn.
I think I'm going to get going soon.
Yeah, man. Well, this is great. This is way longer. I thought we're like 2 hours and 40 minutes. Isn't that crazy?
Oh my god! Yeah,
fucking long
That's
talk.
Awesome.
This is by far the longest episode I ever did, but because it's in real time and it's streaming, there's not going to be any. If this was back in the day where I was editing everything, it would literally take me like an entire day just to cut it all up and re-render it and upload it and all that stuff.
You have to let me know how much hate mail we got.
There might be some. There isn't a lot of plays. Like there aren't a lot. It's Sunday night at like midnight now, right? Yeah. So there's not a lot of viewers right now, but there will be tomorrow. They'll see that it's up. So we'll see. There might be some good hate. No, Judy, I'll share you the extra special ones. Should I limit it? Like if it's the actual death threat or something, I might just block it. That I think.
Yeah, it might be.
Might be better. Like on my Twitter, death threat gets a block.
Yeah. Do you get death threats on your Twitter?
It's bots is what it is, because you look it up and there's this bot sentinel add-on that you get, and it gives everything a percentage. And if it's something really egregious, if someone says, "You're gonna fucking die," you look it up, it's like 80% disruptive. Like you don't get that score if you're a normal person.
No.
You can get up to the 60s. You could be like problematic, but not if you're in the high disruptive. That's definitely a bot.
Yeah,
so, yeah. So usually it's the bots. I think people are generally. I don't want. Maybe I just don't want to believe that people are as shitty as the world makes them out to be. Right?
Well, there could be a bunch of 12-year-olds sitting in their mom's basement getting mad at us.
Yeah.
Oh, talk about guitars. I want to hear about guitars.
Want to hear? Well, you heard them. We did talk about guitars. We talked a lot about other stuff. Yeah. But I think it was good, man. I think it was. I think this has been a success. We'll have to see, right? See how it goes.
We both don't need to go to therapy this week.
No, we definitely don't. And it's great, because I get to talk to everyone about this all the time, and certainly not in as much detail or whatever, right?
I clearly don't talk to very many people at all.
Dude, I watched so much of the convoy shit, right? I saw so much of it, like. I read every fucking video, anything anyone posts. Even I watched all the disinformation too. I watched everything. It's like it's all up here, man. Like all 3 weeks of it. It's like I didn't do a lot else. That's why I wanted to know what was going on, right? So.
Yep. No, absolutely. I found myself going down the rabbit hole last night and then going, no, you're just gonna get depressed.
Well, Anyway, so I get thanks again, Alun Piggins. Check out the Lobsterman. You can find the Lobsterman on Bandcamp.
Yep, that's
get those Jordan Peterson loops going on in there. Well, it's great to talk to you again, man, and hopefully we get to meet in person sometime coming up.
I'll probably give you a call in the middle of the week.
There you go. Right on.
Yeah.
And other than that, I'm going to cut to the outro credits, which I got programmed here. So once I do that, it'll just go boop, and it won't disconnect the call, but I'll get to end the stream. But we could talk later, but they don't get to see that, right? So yeah, just hang on a bit. We'll see you later next time. What do I? Oh yeah. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. We'll see you next time on Obsessive Audio.